What's up, guys? We are live. So we have a really fun debate for you today. We haven't done a debate in a minute because I was saving it for really, really good ones. So let me kind of explain this layout here. We got me, Alex from Playing with Fire. In case you haven't met me, we got the lovely Jazmen Jafar. She's been on the channel a bunch of times. But just in case you're not familiar with her, let's give Jazmen a chance to give a quick introduction.
Yeah, so my name is Jazmen Jafar. I am an OnlyFans creator. I'm also a licensed attorney, so I kind of go by 304 lawyer in the red pill space.
Yeah, and then we got the how should I even introduce you guys at this point?
The Mentuition Network.
Right. Formerly on the different podcast that you guys saw me go on. Can I mention the podcast, or is that still like a
unspoken?
Okay. You guys know which podcast I'm talking about. I went on other podcast about what was it, 3 weeks ago? Starts with a U. You guys can guess the rest. So yeah, they're going through a little bit of a thing. So we're gonna basically call them Mentuition because that's the name of their brand. But you see, it's all the same guys with the exception of one who is not there. I believe Hector was there. Steve was behind the screen. You're the producer.
Yes, sir.
Basil, you were also were you on the stage, or were you also?
Yeah, I was on the panel, but there was like dirty voices going on.
Right. Oh yeah. You were sitting like to the right of me. Okay, I do remember you.
Yeah, I was there too. Everyone thought me and Alex.
I have you mentally saved as sunglasses guy. No, I know you were there, Jazmen. I remember you were.
Yeah, I thought y'all were a couple or something.
I know everyone because I said he would have to defend me against violent men.
I mean, gotta do what I gotta do. And Tom is going to be moderating this, so I want to get a moderator just so everything is 100% fair. So it's going to be a good time. Tom is going to be neutral. So let me kind of explain, mainly for you, Tom, but also for the audience. So with moderation, really on this channel, I have a kind of laid back moderation policy. Essentially, you will step in 2 or 3 situations. The first one is if someone's getting interrupted over and over and over again and they can't get a word in, right? So it's like I allow a little interruption, but like too much, you should step in and then give the other person who's being interrupted a chance to talk. The second, if someone's really, really veering away from the topic. Now, the topic here is pretty broad. We're going to be talking about red pill and what the red pill dating advice is, whether it's good or bad, right? But it's pretty broad. So anything about dating or red pill, if you feel like it's on point, then keep it there. If you feel like someone's really veering off, then you would just redirect the conversation. And the third thing is if someone appeals to the moderator, like for example, like, oh, Basil is not really answering this question. Can you make him answer? And you would just use your best judgment at that point. So that would be the role of the moderator. I also want to give actually you guys, Basil and Hector and Steve, a chance to introduce yourselves. I didn't do that. So let's start off with you, Basil.
It's nice to meet everyone. Nice to see you again, Jazmen and Alex. Nice to meet you, Tom. My name is Basil Artis. You could also call me the Network King. That's my show on the Mentuition Network. We had a podcast before. We had to step away, do other things. We're choosing to take another route. So I am one of the owners of the Mentuition Network. And thank you, brother.
Okay, cool. And then Hector and Steve.
Alex, Tom, Jazmen, how you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing well. For those who don't know me, my name is Hector Jesus. I go online. The host of The Parallel Perspective, a new upcoming show on the Mentuition Network. Happy to be here.
And my name is Steve, aka King. I host a podcast on the Mentuition Network called The Mentuition Academy, where I talk about a lot of travel, passport bros stuff. I also am an owner of the Mentuition Network, and I met Alex a while back with my former co-host, and I'm glad to be back on here again, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a good debate with you guys, and I appreciate you guys coming on. So I think we should start off with some clarifying questions. I've heard you guys say, especially I remember this when I was in the studio, you guys say you don't really identify as red pill. And I don't want to straw man your position. So I'm curious, what are some disagreements you have with the red pill?
Yeah, I usually say that we don't identify with the labels given to us by our oppressors because, in my opinion, I think that what the red pill essentially is just a bunch of, guys who don't necessarily have too much dating experience, and they're going off of a lot of things based off of things that they read on books or things that they researched. So, and, when you start to hear a bit of bitterness in the message that they're spewing, those aren't the things that I agree with. Now, are there a lot of good points that the, quote unquote, red pill community does bring up, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of things that are obvious when it comes to dating and the intersexual dynamics between men and women that aren't necessarily favoring men. And I think that some of the creators are, I guess it's in the best interest. However, I do think that some things do come off a bit negative.
Can you give like specific, like I don't know how else to say this, like
prescriptions or talking points
you disagree with? Like, there's some like a red pill trope that you hear that you're like, yeah, I don't agree with that.
I think that it's not necessarily the message, but sometimes it's the messenger. So if you don't seem like you have, so for example, I say this a lot too. I've been around, and you can tell guys who are relatively well with women, and then you can tell the guys that are not. You can tell the guys that read a book or two and now they're, they think that they can get women, and then the ones that don't, that did it through trial and error. I mean, we spoke about it, with you, Alex, when you said that you developed game in your younger years and were able to, you used to be really bad at game and then you started developing. Could you agree that it was through trial and error, getting a lot of no's until those no's finally turned into yeses, but you started to develop experience in the sense of how to talk to women, what kind of conversations to bring up, how to open up conversations?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree with your point about most red pill guys having no idea what they're doing, but you do have to kind of separate the messenger from the message. So, for example, I could be really poor, but I say that, hey, it's a good idea to invest your money rather than spend it on gambling, right? That would still be good financial advice, even though I'm not good. So I do agree with your point, but I guess,
but you wouldn't be able to show me how, though. If you're poor and you're telling me invest your money, you're not going to be able to show me how to invest my money.
Yeah, I'll even grant you all that. I'm not even here to debate how qualified or unqualified you are. I really don't know anything about you guys, so I can't make a statement. But I can, comment on what your beliefs are. That's right. So I'm more interested in arguing about your beliefs rather than like who you are and how qualified you are. So I guess the question is like, what are some things? And you can even give me the ones. So let's do it like this. Just give me a few things that you agree with the red pill on in terms of prescriptions or advice, and a few things that you disagree with the red pill on.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you one. Let me give you one.
Go ahead.
Red pillars typically say that women are hypergamous, that most women will date up. They date men who they perceive as better than them. They want a guy who's taller, makes more money, smarter. They're typically, it's been proven that women are naturally attracted to guys that have these traits. And so a red pill, statement or opinion or maxim would be women are hypergamous. You need to understand that. That would be one thing that I would agree with.
Okay.
Right.
Let's keep going. I want to write all these down. Let's
something that I wouldn't agree with is don't be chivalrous. I believe that a gentleman should be chivalrous to a woman. Now I think that you need to develop a certain amount of experience to understand what kind of woman is worthy of chivalry, because you can't just give value to a woman, to just any woman who's not worthy of receiving some sort of chivalry. Now, always be a gentleman, open the door, whatever. But as far as like, let's say buying flowers, I'll buy flowers to the right woman, right? But this whole rhetoric of don't buy flowers to a woman because she doesn't deserve blah, 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 like that would be something I don't agree with.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to kind of piggyback off of Hector. I think in the red pill community, they'll say don't give respect to certain women because maybe they're doing a certain profession or they're practicing certain acts. So they're not going to uphold certain types of respect towards that women. But I think as men, we should just, carry ourselves always respectful.
Okay. I wrote down three. One thing you guys agree with: women date guys who are above them in the concept of hypergamy, and you disagree with the idea with that you shouldn't be chivalrous. You're saying it's okay to be chivalrous in certain situations, and don't give respect to. You disagree with the idea that you shouldn't give respect to women or certain women. You disagree with that. Okay, all the ones you said you disagree with, we are in agreement on. I have no debate with you on that. The agree one is one that's worth of discussion, but I guess I want to just go through a few more. What are some other things you agree and disagree with the red pill on?
Me personally, let's see. Another one would be alpha fucks, beta bucks, right? That whole the alpha male or the guy who's perceiving this and this flows into what I was talking about with women are naturally hypergamous by nature, right? So the alpha male or perceived alpha male is the guy who typically will have his pick from the women, and the guy who's more of the beta, the more soft guy, is not going to be as successful with women.
He's the safe guy.
He's the safe guy. He's the guy that they take maybe when they're
30,
right, or whatever it might be. So alpha fucks, beta bucks is another statement, that's quote unquote red pill.
I agree with a man having to be the ultimate version of himself, being in shape, learn how to communicate, not just with women, but also with other men, being a leader of men. I agree with that. Being well-dressed, well-spoken, well-smelling, so that if that would be considered red pill, I agree with that. Because all of that, I think, plays a big part in attracting the opposite sex also as a man. To piggyback off of what Steve said, the alpha bucks, beta bucks, 100%. Since the beginning of time, the bigger guy, the stronger guy, the better looking guy, the, better spoken guy always got more women, where versus after a certain time, like for example, a woman will fuck off her early years with Tito and Ray Ray, but when she gets 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and Tito and Ray Ray, they don't want to fuck with her anymore, then she'll settle for Juan and Marcus. She's not gonna, she's gonna go for guy rather than, And it's funny because we even asked somebody a question, one of the ladies, good-looking girl, young, content, OnlyFans content creator, and we asked her, who would you go for? The average guy that could provide a secure lifestyle for you, or would you go for the financially responsible guy that's better looking? She said, I'll marry the guy who's financially stable, who's not that good looking, and I'll fuck the guy who's financially unstable but better looking,
I have a clarifying question. So when you say alpha fucks, beta bucks, are you talking about the dual mating hypothesis, which a lot of scientists have completely abandoned it because there's no evidence. So I want to know, are you talking about the dual mating hypothesis where women are, marrying one guy, but then they're cheating with like the Chad? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm not implying that she's cheating with him. I'm implying that she gets that out of her system first. So in her earlier years, when she's young and hot, how old are you, Jasmine?
28.
Okay, so you're close to 30, but okay. 8 years ago, right, when you were 20, your value was higher, right? Or at least you were hotter. You might not think so, but whatever. Like, that's what men think. And so those girls are getting all that out of their system in their college years. They're banging all the football players, right? They're banging all the guys in the fraternities. They're having fun with all these guys. And then they don't necessarily cheat on the guy, but they go to their late 20s, 30s, and then they settle down with the beta guy. So they're not in a relationship. They're not waiting till they're 30, then getting married, then cheating back with it. Some do, but that's not what I'm implying.
Okay, because alpha fucks, beta bucks usually refers to the dual mating hypothesis. So I want to clarify.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess
maybe in part, but I'm using it in the context of the alphas get the pussy, the betas, they get the leftovers afterwards, or the girl uses him as the safe.
By the way, I'm writing down everything you guys are saying, so we're gonna address these points all one by one. I guess the second and final clarifying question I want to ask is like, what is your dating advice to guys who are struggling to meet girls? Let's say a guy who's in his 20s, early 30s. He lives in a first world country. He has a so-so job or whatever, average job, but he's struggling. He's really struggling to meet a girl. Maybe he's a virgin. What would be your advice to that guy?
Instantly, the first thing I would say would definitely say focus on yourself. And focus on yourself, that means you could take certain actions. Maybe one of the actions, like Hector was talking about earlier, dressing correctly, taking care of your hygiene, going to the gym, making yourself into a maybe more attractive in other standards, but besides, the hypergamy in the sense, instead of your wealth.
You mentioned dressing better, going to the gym, and hygiene. Is there anything else that you would add to that list of?
I'll add a few things. So number one point that Basil brought up, self-development. Of course, that'd be the number one, self-development, learning yourself, right? Mentally, physically, spiritually, learning yourself first, who you are in order to know what kind of woman you want. Because you might think you want a certain woman because, right, men were visual, we're sexually attracted to specific, types of women, but you got to learn yourself. So once you develop yourself.
Wait, Hector, really quick, I don't mean to interrupt, but I do want you to expand on that. Can you give an example of how a guy would like learn himself? I want to see if we're talking about the same thing.
Okay, so I always tell the younger guys that I talk to on my consultations is ask yourself these 4 questions. The first 3 are the most important. So it's who am I, who I don't want to be, who do I want to become? And then the final one is how am I going to exist? So once you identify who you are, okay, I'm a fat piece of shit that plays video games all day. I have no game. My friends don't respect me. My family don't respect me. Okay, well, that's exactly who I don't want to be. So who do I want to become? You start to mold the man that you want to become. And that takes a lot of work, right? It doesn't take 3 months. 90 days, right? It doesn't take 120 days. It takes a while to mold the man you want to become, and you decide how you're going to exist. So self-development, right? You start reading these books, learning yourself, focusing on what it is to be emotionally in control of what you feel. And then after that, then you go looking for women, right? The main advice that I would give men after they do that is play the game. Lose that anxiety of talking to women. Anxiety is future pain, right? That you start to, oh, I'm already anticipating a no. I feel anxious. I don't think I'm gonna go say hi to her. Just do it, right? Fight against that anxiety. Sooner or later, you're gonna start getting more and more comfortable talking to the opposite sex. And again, like I said, it's not just about talking to the opposite sex. It's also talking to men. You know, the way that you communicate with men, learning the art of small talk, right? And after that, then you'll be able to successfully enter into a conversation with a woman, I think. So I would say,
go ahead.
I would say that. Yeah, I would say that. I would self-development. That's, you know, being in the best shape that you can be, you know, becoming stronger physically, mentally, spiritually, of course, and then, you know, playing the game, talking to women, figuring out what works best for you, learning the art of small talk, right? Communication, your body language, and of course, how Basil said, how to dress. Your hygiene is super important. Learning what smells works best on your skin, what colors work best on your skin tone. So just self-development in its totality, I think, would help a man ultimately being able to attract the opposite sex.
The last thing I'll say real quick is that a younger guy should try to find a mentor. Try to find someone who's older, maybe in his 30s, 40s, someone he can latch on to, learn the game from. He can learn how to wear the best cologne, right? Mm-hmm. He'll learn the brands. He'll learn certain things. You know, that would be a key thing I would say too. You know, attach yourself to people who are already, who are where you want to be.
Your finances too, yeah.
Correct.
Hector, when you say play the game, do you mean like go out and talk to girls?
Yeah, go out and talk to girls. You know, go to these places where you know beautiful women are at and go for it. Don't just sit there and, you know, with your cup in your hand. She's gonna say no. She's gonna say no. Just go and talk to her. Hey, how you doing? Excuse me. Something. And it could be anything. You don't even have to say, can I get your number? Just by saying, hey, how are you? How you doing? Whatever. It could be anything. Just lose that anxiety to talk to women and talk to men. In general, just talk to anybody. You don't even have to always talk. You could talk to an old lady, start a conversation with her. Hey, I used to get that cup of coffee every time I used to get to Starbucks. How do you like it? What is it that you like about it? But you start to learn the art of small talk, right? You're talking to everyone, not just the woman that you're attracted to, but the old lady at the counter, the cashier at Target. You know, when you go to the fucking gym, you start talking to the guy at the front. Yo, what's good about that protein? Tell me a little bit about the creatine. You start asking questions and start losing that anxiety to talk to people in general.
You see Jazmen walk by, right? Just approach her. Don't be scared, right? You gotta go for it.
But bro, she's late 20s. She's past her prime. Come on, man.
Yeah,
like,
you know,
that would be another thing too. That would be another thing too. Let's touch on that, since the question you asked earlier too about the whole being past their prime. I think that some men will be willing to overlook a woman's age, especially in 30, if they stay, you know, physically fit and right. Because you can slow down the clock. Men, we can slow down the clock. Women can slow down the clock too, depending on their lifestyle. If they're living a healthy lifestyle, they're staying in shape. Some men will overlook the fact that they're 28 or 30. It's not always, 30, you're worthless. That's not what it is, right? That's one thing that I don't.
Men like in their mid 30s, outside of your little group, do you think that men in their late 30s or mid 30s are actively seeking out women that are under like 24? Like, is that something you actually believe? Because there's no data to back that up, and it's a pretty niche thing that I only hear in the red pill world, and it hasn't been reflected in my reality or the reality of anyone that I know or any data.
Well, again, like I said, this little group that you're referring to, we don't necessarily identify or advocate towards everything that they say. Like I was just saying right now, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that after a woman is 28 or 30, she just loses all value in the sexual marketplace. I mean, there's men, right, that is like, oh, I mean, she's 30, we're the same age, we have a connection. So what if she's not fucking 21? You know, it's not always. Now, is there a select group of men that specifically go for women that are 18, 19, 21, 22, 23? Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, I'm 31. I just turned 31 a few days ago. Do I find some 21-year-old women attractive? Of course, right? But there's also 30-year-old women that are attractive. I think that there's a specific thing. There's a specific thing in women that are older, closer to that age. That is what turns men off, which is the amount of sexual partners that they could potentially have, which is them having multiple children by multiple men that'll turn a man off. But let's just say that a woman has children or a child with one man from one prior relationship, and she's a good woman that has certain qualities that man is looking for, that checks every box that man is looking for. He'll overlook the fact that she's 30 with a child. It doesn't necessarily mean she's 30, she's worthless, I want to go for the 20-year-old. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but that's what I mean with this specific space, that there's certain things that they over exaggerate. I think that they amplify certain things that are just, you know, they're not necessarily that true. Is there a lot of good in the message that they're expressing? Of course, right? There's a lot of things. Like, I mean, we stated some of them early: becoming the ultimate version of yourself, being in shape, learning how to talk, how to communicate with not just men, but also women, dressing well, smelling well, all of these things, right? These are good traits that men need, right? A lot of men aren't men, and a lot of people in that space are pushing men to be this way. But for example, that's another specific thing that I don't necessarily agree with.
Can I ask Jazmen a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Jazmen, let me just, I want to ask you, well, I want to say something and I want to ask you a question. So there are truths that what I would call, they're called gauging truths. And what I mean by gauging truth, think of a speedometer, right? The speedometer is here in the middle, right? You know, this is halfway, this is a full tank, this way is empty. And so when we say a woman that may be in her 30s, it's not over for her, but that she may not get approached as much from certain guys. She'll lose certain guys that may go up to her and try to court her, get her number, so on and so forth. That's like, it's basically like on the gauge of 0 to 100, like that would be like maybe like a 60 or 75%. What I mean by that is like not all, right? On Mentuition, we don't like to say all women are this, all women that are 30 are this. We operate in like some, half, and most. It's disingenuous to say all women are this or all women are 30s are this. But there is a gauging truth that since you're 28, right, that there probably is less guys that are trying to come up to you and get your number. Now you wouldn't know.
What would you put that, just to clarify, what would you put that number at? Would you say like, and I'm not asking you for an exact, would you say it's like 10% less, 50% less, 90% less, just so I get an idea of what you're thinking?
I would say, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jazmen.
I would just say that this is just so contrary to everything we know. Like, I think most people date within 3 years of their age. And there's been tons of studies. There's a really big one that Corinne Lowe just did that shows that they had pictures of women, different ages, and that only men who care about fertility or want children and know about fertility and the ages that women are most fertile were the only men who really cared. Only like 8% of relationships have a 10-year age gap, and your likelihood of divorce goes up 40% when you seek these so-called younger women that don't have this baggage. Their prefrontal cortex isn't developed. Your likelihood of divorce skyrockets. Even with a 5-year age gap, it goes up 18%. So where are you seeing?
What percentage of men care about? What percentage of men? That depends on what percentage of men care about fertility, though. So what's the percentage of men? Do you have the stat of how many men out of all men care about fertility? Like what?
So and that was even under 35. So most of the men in multiple studies, they prefer women they want attractive women. But if the woman's attractive, you have two equally attractive women, one's 28, one's 22, and the guy is closer to 28, most of those men prefer the woman that was closer to their age. Most men don't want women whose brains are not developed, who are still in college, and those relationships tend to fare off far worse, and they're not very common either. So I just don't know where.
I want to clarify though, what percentage of men care about fertility in women? Did they give you like a broad, like that's 35%?
It was I have to look at the site, I can pull it up, but it was
Okay.
men who knew that they wanted kids, and then they were picking women under 35. They actually weren't preferring 21-year-olds to 30-year-olds because the fertility difference isn't major within them. Between 18 to 25, if you're trying for 1 year, you have a 96% chance of getting pregnant. Between 25 and 35, it's 86% chance. So it's not like this major drop that once you're 25, the fertility goes down. They weren't picking women that were 40 plus if they wanted kids. If they didn't want kids, they actually didn't even care. So this age thing where it's like, oh, I don't even care how she looks like, a woman who's equally attractive. Like if I told you I was 22, if I automatically become more attractive in your mind than if I say I'm 28, even though I look like whatever you think I look like, that is pretty bizarre, and it's not reflected by most of the male population, I would say.
Hold on, you said what? If what? What did you say? If she what? Imaginary what?
If I say I'm 22, I don't know how old you guys are, but let's say one of you guys are like 32. If I say I'm 22 versus I say I'm 28, if I become automatically more attractive to you if I say I'm 22, that's weird, especially because our relationship is way less likely to work out if I'm 22 than if I'm 28.
Yeah, but that's weird to you. It's not weird to me as a man. You're speaking subjective. You're speaking about your opinion that you think it's weird.
But
Do
I'm
you
also
think
saying that there's no data that reflects what you're saying. There's just most people don't date like this. Like what we're saying, this is how men are. You're using your example.
Sure. How about this? The percentage of men that care about fertility, you said that they would typically want to date a younger woman. Is that correct?
No, 35 and under, not 20.
Yes, but 35 and under, yes, because geriatric pregnancy starts at what, 35, right?
Yeah.
So naturally,
men take their 20-year-olds to 28-year-olds if they're 33, for instance.
Okay. Well,
I mean, can I ask you a clarifying question real quick? Because it sounds like, Steve, are you just talking about physical attractiveness, or are you saying men are just more likely to get with these women just overall?
I'm saying that men are more likely to get with those women overall, but in the example that I was making earlier when I was talking to Jazmen, when I had said her 20-year-old self was hotter than she was now, I was talking about physically.
Okay, and Jazmen, do you agree that they're more likely to find those women physically attractive from like 20 to 25?
I think it depends. Like that's the thing. There's not much of a difference between what a 20. In fact, I mean, a lot of women also agree with this, that you like come into yourself, you actually get more attractive like a little bit later. I don't think there's a huge gap of attractiveness between like a 22-year-old and a 28-year-old or a 20-year-old and a 28-year-old. It's just not this major thing.
Assuming she takes care of herself, yeah.
So
Like, I mean, Alex, you're a guy. Since you're saying I can't say anything because I'm a guy, you're a guy. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so we might be getting into an element of personal preference, but there's also a great discussion in hand. So in terms of personal preference, and I'm in a unique position because I have hooked up with a lot of girls who are like 19, 20. I will never date a 19 or 20-year-old. All the girls I've dated were within 2-3 years of my age.
Yeah.
My current girlfriend is literally my age. And like when I have hooked up with her girls who are like 19, 20, like after we're laying in bed next to each other, I look at her and I'm like, we literally are different people. Like she's talking about partying and college, and I'm like, dude, like I fucking want to work on my business. Like there's just nothing in common at all. I could never imagine dating a 19 and 20-year-old. That seems like it would not last at all because our values and the place we're at in life is so misaligned, right? So for me personally, I definitely prefer to date hot girls. They have to be hot, but who are my age or similar age range, 3-4 years in one direction doesn't really make a big difference. I think
there's less than 8% of relationships that even have this kind of age gap. And it's one of the ways I would say red pillars give bad advice is you're telling women to seek out these younger women because they have less baggage, when the statistics show that your divorce rates nearly double. If it's 20 years, it goes up 95%. So it doesn't seem that these big age gaps in relationships are even good to pursue, because the likelihood of those ending up poorly is way higher than if you date within your own age, which is what the vast majority of men and women do and prefer.
Yeah, wait, really quickly, let me just buttress this really quick. So I think that's the larger, more interesting point that Jazmen is making. Now, look, I think me and Jazmen will both agree that everyone's free to do whatever the fuck they want. I think if you want to date someone younger, there's nothing wrong with that. But the issue comes down to if it's a prescription, is it an optimal prescription or suboptimal prescription? Well, if you look at the data, it seems that when you date someone who's 10, 15 years younger than you, that comes out to be a suboptimal prescription. You can take that risk if you want to, right? But why would that be, standard advice if those have a much higher chance of ending in divorce or the relationship ending. So I think that's the more interesting point that Jazmen's
Well,
making.
here on the parallel perspective in the Mentuition channel, we don't necessarily tell men or women to date 10 years or 15 years their senior, or tell men to date women 10 or 15 years younger than them. I personally always tell women, if you're going to look for a man and you want to settle down and you're dating to get married, try to go 3, 5, maybe even 7 at the most years up in age. If you're looking for a man that you want to take, that wants to take you serious in dating, because let's be honest, most 22, 23, 25-year-old men aren't ready to be married. Most 30-year-old men aren't ready to be married. But if you're looking to be married, if you're dating, your intentions are to be married, look for 3, 5, maybe even 7. And 7 is pushing it years up. This whole 10 years of age, 15 years of age, I don't typically agree with that either.
And also, real quick,
that's why we don't necessarily associate with we don't identify with the labels given to us by our oppressors. I mean, I said that to you guys at the beginning.
Do you think that women under 25 should be trying to get married? Like, do you think that's good for women that are like 20 to try to get married? Because also the data shows that women between after 25, you're divorced. Like a woman who gets married at 20 is 50% more likely to get divorced than a woman who gets married at 25. So I don't think men or women, if you're trying to give good advice, it should be wait till your brain is developed, no matter which gender you are, and get your shit together and then get married. The chance of your marriage working out is going to be much better.
You said, do I think women under what age you said?
20.
Should you think like women who are, because when you were saying, 22, 23-year-old men aren't ready to get married, I assume that you're saying the woman who's 22, 23 should be trying to get married. Do you think she should be at that age?
I think that a woman should prioritize marriage and children over their career and their education. So I think that if a woman's ultimate goal is to be married, she should do that in her younger years rather than waiting till she's 30. So yeah, if a woman's 22 and because we also got to understand that wives are bred, they're made, they're taught to be wives. Husbands are bred and taught to be husbands. Like a man can't just say I'm a husband today because I'm ready to get married. Like a man has to be a husband before he's ready to get married. A woman has to be a wife before a man wants to marry her. So if she was bred to be a wife, if she was taught to be a wife by her mother and her father, then yes, if she's 22 and she's like, hey, I don't care about, pursuing a long education to be a career woman, I want to get married already. Yes, if she feels like she's ready to get married, she was taught to be married by her mother, taught to be a wife, by her mother, then yes, I don't think that she should wait till she's 32 to get married.
So I'm not saying you're wrong. Everyone can do what they want. All I'm saying is all the available data shows that people who get education and divorce statistics, literally it's like this. The higher educated you are, the less likely you are to get divorced. And between 25, like I said, a woman who gets married at 20 is 50% more likely to get divorced than a woman who gets married at 25.
I've seen different. So, I've seen statistics that say that the higher the woman is in her education, the more likely she is to get divorced.
Wait. No. Show me those statistics, because I think what you're conflating is the initiation, which is called a selection bias. So you're looking at couples that this is like a red pill thing that they don't understand because they don't have stats. Like, so basically you guys are looking at 70% of women initiate divorces, and then you take the stat that if a woman's college educated, then it's 90% likely that they're going to initiate the divorce, and you take that and you say, oh, that means college educated women are more likely to get divorced. No, because you're looking at couples who are already getting divorced. Educated women are less likely to be in that group in the first place. If you have a woman at my level of education, a doctorate degree, it jumps to 25, it jumps to half of what it is for the general population. So if you have statistics that show otherwise, I'd love to see them, because this has been replicated year after year after year, that this is just facts, that education correlates with your divorce rates. And also women who get married between 25 and 32 seems to be the good ages where you have, now I'm not saying every decision you make has to look at statistical likelihood of divorce, but if you're making decisions and you're a young woman or a young man, look at, okay, what's going on with other people? It seems like in this country, people who wait a little bit, wait till their brains are developed, maybe learn a few things in life, maybe get a little bit of education, not only do the outcomes are better for marriage, but for children, right? Children born to educated mothers, maternal education is one of the biggest contributors to childhood success and development. Higher levels of proficiency in math, reading, those mothers typically expose their children to activities that stimulate their cognitive development. It just seems to be the overall best advice. if you want a high IQ for your child, if you want your child to do well in school, if you want your marriage to last long, to go that route rather than be like 21 and get married.
Jazmen,
So it would be a good age, in your opinion, for a woman to get married? Between what ages? Between 25 and 32?
25 and 32 statistically seem to be the best. That's
okay, but hold on. Let me just butt in real quick, because you're talking about 20 to 25, and I think what's very important about this statistic is what age range are those women? What age range of guys are those women dating? The argument is that 35-year-old guys are ready to. You were talking about date down 10 years, right? Or 7 years or whatever. And you don't think that should be that way. So my argument back to you would be, what are the statistics on those 20-year-old women? What age group of guys are they marrying where the divorces are failing? Because I would argue, and I don't have the data for this, but maybe you do, and we can look it up. What are the statistics of the 20-year-olds dating a guy that may have his shit together? And what are those divorce rates? What you're talking about is probably convoluted with guys who and women who are 20 dating a guy who might be 23, 24. It doesn't work out. They get divorced because it's too early. Their brains aren't developed yet, or whatever you said earlier, right? You're sneaking in little like, oh, their brains aren't developed when they're this age. No, I mean, look, if the guy is 35 years old, he's got his shit together, he's making good money, and she's 21, 22, a hot piece of ass, right? It's less likely that that's going to happen. You're probably talking about.
You have to explain the statistic about how age gaps increase your likelihood of divorce by way more than even marrying young. So actually, statistically speaking, if you're 20 and you marry a 23-year-old, you're less likely to get divorced than if you're 20 and you marry a 30-year-old who has his shit together, 35-year-old. 15 years, I think it goes up over 50%. So that's my whole point.
Where's that statistic from?
Okay,
where are you going
to you? Just look up age gap and divorce, and there's like these are really. I'm not picking difficult stuff for you guys because I know you guys aren't like going into like research and articles. Just look up age gap and divorce, and I'll link something because it'll be really easy.
Sure,
you don't even
sure, but when you say a blanket statement like the 20-year-old women are from 20 to 25 are more likely to get divorced, or 90% or whatever percentage you say, you have to give it a little context, right? Because we were talking about older men dating younger women, right?
The age gaps also increase. So there's two things. One, getting married young increases your likelihood of divorce, and having a 10-year age gap increases your likelihood of divorce. So now there's two things you're doing that increase your likelihood of divorce. So now it's a double whammy.
Sure. Show me that stat. I'd love to see that. Now
literally. I mean, you just look up age gap divorce rate. That's all you have to do. And literally there's a first thing that shows up, starting with the reference point of a same age couple. A couple has a 1-year age difference, has 3% likelihood of divorce. If there's a 5-year age difference, the risk increases 18%. 10-year age difference yields increased risk of 39%. If there's a 20-year age difference, the risk increases 95%. That is the first thing that pops up. But you can also find, if you go down, here's the National Institute of Health. This is a bigger study that looks at it. A model developed that shows that divorce rates are lowest when the husband,
I'm sorry, go ahead. You say lowest when the husband what?
Yeah, is in those age ranges that I told you. So Right. Are you disputing the statistics? Because we can go back and forth on the statistics. Because what
I'm trying to find out is why are these relationships failing? Because you're saying
likely because the prefrontal cortex is not developed yet when you're under that age, and also when there's a big age gap, you probably have less in common. It's typically there's assortative mating and the similarity attraction hypothesis is the most well-researched theory in the psychology of attraction. We typically like mating, and we're typically more successful mating when we mate across IQ, across attractiveness, across socioeconomic status, and this is where the majority of people mate. It's like less than 10% of relationships, like 8% of marriages, I think, where there's like 10-year age gap in either direction. More commonly when the man is older, although there are some, it's becoming increasingly common that the woman is actually 10 years older than before. But we are seeing that this. Sorry, what was so can you repeat the question? Because
he's asking why he thinks that's the case.
So we don't know why, but my guess would be that when you're young, when you're under 25, so there's two questions. If you're asking why people under 25 are more likely to get divorced, well, one, they're more likely to make impulsive decisions like get married in the first place out of impulsivity rather than actually being ready, rather than actually being mature enough to make the decisions. Your brain is not developed until you're 25, 26. And that is so
typically
that
the studies don't tell you.
contributor.
Okay, no, it's okay if the study.
Let me just add one more thing. And typically these studies, they don't tell you the why, they just tell you the what, right? And sometimes the author will speculate on the why, but typically like that's like, how is he going to definitively prove what the why is? So that's kind of left up for your own speculation. But yeah, I think what Jazmen said is definitely at least part of it. But yeah, you were saying something?
No, but it goes back to what we were saying before, which is what you would call a red pill statistic that we always use, which is the percentage of the divorce that are filed by women. So out of all these 20 to 25-year-old women who are filing 90% or that they're getting divorced with these guys, the percentage still stands that 70% of the women are filing those divorces within those 20 to 25, correct?
So sure, but then what you're saying is that if you marry a woman way younger than you, she's extra likely to initiate a divorce. I don't know how that helps you.
No, we're not. No, I'm saying that we find those women more attractive. Those women are more fertile. Those women are less likely to have babies with problems. Men naturally like women and want to date women who are younger. Even if it is statistically proven that if I'm 35 and she's 30, the marriage lasts longer, fine. But the main point of what we were talking about is what men want and what we like. And the problem with women and modern women like yourself is that you guys don't care what we want. We're telling you what we want, and then you want to bring up whatever facts.
Do you have any evidence
I'm telling you that most men do not want to date women their age. They want to date women.
Do you have any evidence that 35-year-olds prefer 20-year-olds? I just want to know.
I'm not going down that far. I'm not going down.
There is evidence, Jazmen. You agree that there is evidence that like most men find women between the ages of 20 and 25 the most physically attractive. Not all men, but generally.
There is a study on that, which is true. But again, then if you take like the same picture, like if you took my face and you said put 22 over it or you put 30 over it, that studies done like that show that men actually don't care under 35.
Yeah, but you're not actually 22.
How many
women? Let me get a quick
they want to date them. That doesn't mean that they want relationships with them. I mean, Alex is
let me ask one more clarifying question.
He may want to fuck those women, but he doesn't want to date them.
So let me ask just one more clarifying question. So, like generally in biology, we do know that like most males are looking at the females and most attracted to them in the age ranges that they are most fertile. You don't think that that's going to apply to human males as often as it does to other animals?
Well, that's the thing, is that there's not that big fertility gap between a 22-year-old and a 28-year-old. If you marry a 28, 30-year-old, your likelihood, if you want to have kids, of having kids is pretty high. It's like you're pretty likely to be successful in that endeavor, just like if you were to do with a 22-year-old. But also our evolution is a little bit different in the sense that we right now, which is why some of the most educated like people are having less kids and the kind of like the dumbest, poorest people are having most kids, which isn't really good. But the goal now isn't just to reproduce as much as possible. That's not what we're trying to do as humans anymore. Otherwise we'd just be fucking like crazy having 8 kids, all of us. It's actually for your children to thrive. It's better to have 2 kids and those 2 kids go through college, make 6-figure plus salaries, are doctors, do something, than if you just pop out 8 kids at 21 with like a woman who can barely speak English or that just doesn't, has no education, can't actually raise your kids to be intelligent or successful. So I would say that is also, which is why most.
Wait, let me get a word in. I just barely have
an Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So there's so much shit I wrote down, but I guess I'll just go one thing at a time, mostly latest thing. So Steve, I think you made a little bit of a straw man saying like, oh, Jazmen doesn't care what men want, right? It's not that. It's just that it's kind of irrelevant to this discussion. Meaning like a girl can say, oh, I want a guy who's 6'3", has a yacht, right? And, treats me like a princess. What are you going to do with that information? Are you going to be like, okay, this is important? Or are you going to be like, whatever, like she's dating the guy that works at McDonald's, right? Like, so there's a big discrepancy what people say they want and what people actually do. So it's much more interesting to look at what people do than they say they want. But I don't think Jazmen, or certainly no, am I not saying that like, oh, well, there's something wrong with wanting a girl that's younger than you. I don't think there's absolutely anything ethically wrong with that. I think the argument that Jazmen is making is that, well, you can want that, but it seems like the majority of guys, don't want that. And also it seems that those relationships statistically are less likely to work out. I guess the final thing I would add is it's a kind of a hypothetical for both of you. It would be like, okay, let's say you have a choice. Choice number one is a hot 32-year-old. She's like your 9. And choice that's choice number one. Choice number 2 is an 18-year-old girl who's like 40 pounds overweight. Which one do you go with?
I think that's a disingenuous question. I mean, why would I want to go for a woman that's overweight? Let's be honest. I clearly said earlier, like there could be a woman that's 30 that's attractive. We're not saying that when a woman hits 30, she's unattractive and has no value and she's worthless. Like, we're not saying that. Like, of course, if a woman that's 18 years old and she's 40 pounds overweight versus a woman that's really attractive at 32, the majority of men are going to want to go with the 32-year-old that's attractive.
Yeah. So looks takes higher priority than age, right?
In that example, that question, yes. Well,
would it, like, give me one example where looks would not take higher priority than age?
Well, for the most part, can we all agree that men typically are attracted visually? Like, we look at a woman and we're more visual, correct?
Yeah. So we're talking about mating practices, though, right? So, like, I'm a lawyer. Lawyers, they don't date 20-year-olds that are working at whatever because they're young or that they're pretty. Lawyers, overwhelmingly, they marry other lawyers and they marry other highly educated women, usually not in their early 20s. That's very rare. So these high-value men that make a lot of money, that have careers, they're not marrying the 20-year-old barista or CVS worker or whoever, or the Instagram baddie.
Yeah, they're fucking them. Yes, they're fucking them.
But okay, are we talking about who we want to fuck? Or are you guys talking about, like, you seem to advocate for long-term monogamous relationships? Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, then let me know.
And that's why when what I said earlier, yes, like if a woman is 30 years old, but if a woman is 30 years old, she's attractive and she lives by certain values, that doesn't necessarily make her less valuable than an 18-year-old. What a lot of men want to avoid is the 30-year-old that isn't well taken care of, that has children by multiple men, that has many sexual partners. I think that's what disqualifies a woman at 30 over the woman that's 22, 23 years old.
I think all that is...
My argument is that if you're a woman, the best thing you can do if you want to secure like a lawyer or a doctor is to go be one yourself, not to sit at home in 22 and be like, hey, marry me now. So that's just advice. I know you guys don't usually give advice to women, but the thing you're saying men are looking for, and they're not, when we're actually looking at the real world, that's not who they end up settling down with, then why is that advice that as a woman, if I'm thinking of, okay, what should I tell other women? A woman says, hey, I really want to get married to a great guy, have kids that are successful and have a long lasting marriage. And I'd say, oh, you want to marry a lawyer? The best thing you could do if you want to marry a male lawyer is be a female lawyer, because they marry those women the most.
Also, let's let Alex go down like a line of argument for a little bit, and then Basil, if you need to get in as well, let me know.
Also after me, let Basil talk. I forgot he was even here.
I'm just listening to everything y'all are saying. I'm consuming this.
So, Hector, I think a lot of the things you said earlier were fair points, that like men don't want a girl who, for example, has kids or who didn't take care of herself. The body count one, I might pick a disagreement with you on that, but it's not going to be super substantive. Yes, I do think a lot of guys don't want a girl with a super high body count, so I'll grant you that. We might have a disagreement of what is a high body count, but that's, I think,
in your opinion, what would be a high body count, Alex?
Okay, I'll answer that, but then I do want to redirect back. So in my opinion, I mean, obviously it depends on the situation. An 18-year-old with a body count of like 25, that would be high, versus a 35-year-old with a body count of like 20, that's not really that bad. So it would depend on factors. But yeah, something along the lines of that. Like
for Miami, maybe for the majority of people, like anything over 10, I think in America is considered high on average.
I've dated girls. I mean, I don't think I've ever dated a girl above a body count of.
Would you marry a girl at 30 with a body count of 25?
If everything about her was perfect. Yeah, I would consider it. But if I'm not 35 myself, but that's not that far.
How old are you, Alex? I'm sorry. How old are you? 30? You're 30 years old, right? 28?
I'm 33. So yeah, 35 wouldn't really be a deal.
33. Let's say 30. She's 30 years old with a body count of 25. Like, would you?
Yeah, if everything else about her was spot on, if she was loyal, if she
how could you guarantee her loyalty though?
You can't guarantee anyone's loyalty. You can't guarantee a virgin's loyalty. You can't guarantee a girl who has a body count of one's loyalty. I think there's better metrics to look at than body count. I do agree with you. If the body count is abnormally high, then that is a sign that she's either has validation-seeking issues or the fact that she, for example,
is sexually undisciplined.
No, I wouldn't even call it that. She's highly novelty driven, so she gets really turned on by novelty, or she worked in porn, one or the other. Yeah, like I think there's better metrics to look at. Like, for example, the girl's relationship with her friends and family. Does she have long lasting friends? If the answer is no, then that's an issue. Does she have a good relationship with her family? If the answer is no, well, that's a potential issue. Is she able to maintain a job? Is she honest? Have you ever caught her in a lie? Does she do anything shady? So, like, yeah, I mean, we can get into more of that later. But I want to go back to the point that you were talking about, which is I lost my train of thought. This is what men want. They don't want a girl who's like whatever, out of shape. That is all true, but those are kind of side points. They're correlated with age, but they're not causative with age. So you can have a girl who's 30 who takes really good care of herself, who doesn't have kids, who doesn't have a high body count. So it seems like
slowed the clock. Yeah, I said that earlier. That she slowed down the clock. She was able to take care of herself physically, right? She doesn't have a high body count, doesn't have multiple children with multiple men. Yes, I said this earlier, that just because she's 30, it doesn't necessarily mean she completely lost her value when it comes to her being a woman, or she's completely worthless. That's something I don't subscribe to. I think that there are women that are 30 years old, or let's just even say 33. They're 33 years old. They took care of themselves physically. They're in very good shape. They're good women. They have a lot of amazing qualities. They don't have a high body count, right? I agree with that. And of course, yeah, if I were to pick the 33-year-old in that scenario versus the 18-year-old that's overweight, even still, if you were able to get with the 18-year-old, you could still motivate her to lose weight, right? That's still a way.
Put her on a treadmill.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things where like that's fixable.
Well, only if she wants to fix.
Only if she wants to, of course, right? But she can change that. Like a woman's weight, that's under her control, right? Versus
exactly is it about the younger woman? Like if we're taking out all the controls of baby daddies, body count, etc. If there's a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old and they're both fit, they're both everything. What is it? Just fertility? What is it? Even though the fertility isn't even that big of a thing, you can very likely have a.
Would you not say her beauty would last longer if she's 20 compared to when she's 30?
Not necessarily. Beauty has a lot to do with genetics, and like even certain races tend to look younger longer. There are a lot of things. Like, I'm going to be honest, I make a lot of money, so I spend a lot of money on skin rejuvenation, that kind of thing. So my parents are Middle Eastern. My mom looks really young. Like, that is probably going to last me a much longer than.
But Jazmen, do you think every woman is like you though? Like, you think majority?
No, that's what I mean. My point is, other than that and the fertility, even though the fertility, you could still easily have children with someone in their late 20s, early 30s. What else is it? Do you just like that they're more immature? Do you like that what do you like about them?
Would you not say the fertility and the beauty are huge points to a woman's value, maybe in a guy's eyes?
I would agree if you're comparing a 20-year-old with a 45-year-old. But if you're comparing a 20-year-old with a 28-year-old, and I'm saying that the 28-year-old is exceptionally attractive, maybe the 20-year-old is too. They both can easily conceive 3 children, however many children you want, unless you want like 10. What exactly? And the older one is more mature, has a fully developed brain. Why would you still prefer that? I'm just curious.
What's the likely of her? Like, if she's younger, first of all, her body's going to bounce back quicker. Again, you're using a 20 and 28-year-old. In 10 years, that the 20-year-old is going to be 30, the 28 is going to be 38. She's less likely to retain her beauty in a percentage value, looking over a majority of women, not your personal, standpoint, she's more likely to drop her in her beauty level. Her fertility level also drops down. That girl that was 20 can still have the amount of kids.
Okay, let me answer it real quick, Jazmen. There's not much else that we care about. That's what men fucking care about. There's not a bunch of other things outside of what you said that we care about. We care about your beauty. We care about how hot you are. That is important to us. I want to ask you a question, Jazmen. Do you think? Hold on. Before you ask me a question, let me ask you a question. Do you think that you are hotter now than you were at 22? From a man, like if we lined up.
Yes.
If we hold on. If we lined up 50 guys and we showed a picture of you actually at 22, not the shit you were saying earlier where we put a 22 on a 20. I don't even know why she said that. That was weird. Let's say we have a picture of Jazmen 22 years old and a picture of Jazmen right now. Do you think that the men would say that you look hotter at 22 or hotter now? What do you think?
You're asking about me personally, 100% 28, 100% 28. Because when I was 22, I wasn't as well versed on how I dressed. I didn't make as much money. I couldn't spend as much money on my looks. I didn't have as much time to like stay fit. My job right now is literally looking hot and making millions of dollars looking hot. So if you're gonna pick me as an example, it's a really bad example.
Okay.
And also,
let's say
all we men care about is this and this. Where I know that's all you care about. And maybe the other.
I didn't say all we men care about. That's the majority.
No, but when you say but where are you getting this? You just feel like it? Is it just your feelings, or do you have?
Yeah, I got to push back against that. Like, I certainly care about a girl's looks, but that is far, far, far from the only thing that I care about. Like, there's so many more things that, at least when it comes to a relationship, hookups. Yeah, her hotness is the only thing that really matters. But well, as long as she's not super crazy and doesn't like fucking.
So are we talking about hooking up, or are we talking?
We're talking
relationship.
Maybe we're a little
overall.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about relationships.
You guys always talk about your facility. You talk about a good. It's good to have a long-term relationship, and the fact that men for long-term relationships only care about looks and fertility is not true. And if you
in the context of Alex's question, you said, Alex, if she was 18 and fat, would you rather her be 18 and fat, or would you rather her be whatever age, 30, whatever, and hot or whatever it is, right? Maybe they're both hot, but would you rather be older or whatever? That depends on what the guy wants. If I want to have kids, I'm going to go with the 18-year-old. And like you said, put her on a treadmill if she'll do it, whatever. But like, I would rather that, because I know, just like Basil said, in 10 years, she'll be 28. And
I wasn't
going to be 40.
Steve, I wasn't asking you a general question. I was asking you about you personally. So
that's my answer.
Alex,
I'm saying that's my answer. My answer is I want kids, so I would prefer the 18-year-old. Why would I?
Sure. Okay.
Wait, let me just wait, Jazmen. One second.
Yeah, would Alex follow up real quick?
Wait, one second, Jazmen. So I just want to clarify this. So you would rather take the 18-year-old that's fat over the 30-year-old that's hot?
Put her on a treadmill. Yep. Put her on a treadmill.
Yeah.
You gotta add that in though. She's not.
Okay. Let me just add one more qualifier. I'm gonna.
She's gonna be fat and ugly forever. Is that what you're gonna add in?
Let's say she's.
Put in there.
Let's say she's 350 pounds.
Yeah,
she
says, there it is.
Look, Alex, at that point, you're going to the extreme. Yeah. You're going to the extreme.
I've qualified that though. I said yes.
No. You can't change it now. Well, I'm going off of the first one.
Wait, I can ask follow-up hypothetical questions.
Oh, Jesus. All right, go ahead. What if she's 305? Go ahead. What's the other part of it?
I'm not changing. I'm adding. I'm giving you another hypothetical.
Does the other woman change too, or does she stay the same?
Let's assume wait, sorry, what did you say?
You changed the 18-year-old to 350 pounds. And what I'm asking you is...
I'm not changing it. I've accepted your answer for the previous one. I'm saying, okay, let me ask you a different hypothetical. Let me add to the nature of the hypothetical to test your logic, right?
So the 18-year-old is 350 pounds now in this hypothetical scenario.
Yes.
Okay. What about the 28?
That's what I'm asking. What now with the
28-year-old is hot as fuck. She's in great shape.
Oh my
That's the thing. But
Alex, that's crazy.
But hold on, no. Stop.
Can she at least have a body count of 100 so it can be kind of fair?
No, their body count is exactly the same.
No, Alex, you can't do that.
Alex,
wait, what do you mean? I can't do that. I'm just asking.
We're out in
Here, hold on. Let's Steve.
I want to clarify something. What Alex just did. You did change the hypothetical. Fine, that's fine. You can ask a hypothetical. We can pull it out of our ass from anywhere. But what you did was you just changed one part, and then you used the same part for the hot 32-year-old. You didn't give any change for that. So now,
work. You test
okay, you're trying to put the person in a corner with the question. Okay, go ahead.
I'm literally just trying to test your logic. That's how I don't know. Maybe you don't do too many debates, but that's literally how hypotheticals work.
I get it.
When someone gives you an answer, you want to test their logic, so you control for one of the factors.
Okay,
if
she's 350
if
pounds.
I change both of the factors, then I don't get to test your logic. So I'm not trying to trap you. It's not.
Okay.
It's not a trick thing. I'm not trying to change the hypothetical. I've accepted the previous hypothetical.
Okay, let me answer. My answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me answer. If I want kids and I want multiple kids, I would take my chances with a fat 350 pounder, because I know that 35-year-old woman or whatever age you gave is not going to give me multiple healthy kids, and I would still put her fat ass on a treadmill. There you go. That's your answer.
Hector, do you
so
agree
obesity
is
like a huge predictor of having issues in pregnancy?
Wait, look, can I just have Hector just answer this real quick, because I want to see if he agrees or disagrees.
You said what now?
It's the same hypothetical I gave to Steve. I just want to see if
I would pick a 350 pound 18-year-old. No, I would not.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this: in terms of pregnancy, like in terms of like her getting with her
long-term relationships,
whatever your personal goals are, Hector. Whatever. It is
absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
But that plays different. That's not only beauty in now, Alex, because then goes to the mentality. You just said 40 pounds overweight to 350 pounds.
Because she's disciplined.
How she thinks and how she is as a woman. That's a whole different.
I understand that. That's why it's called. I am adding to the testing of your logic, right? I understand that. I made the situation much more extreme.
We're talking
about have to do that sometimes in hypotheticals. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not like a debate fallacy or like a logical fallacy or anything like that. I was just curious about that. Basil, can I actually get you to answer that question before we move on?
Yeah, no, I would pick the 30-year-old again. That I feel like that's playing into the mentality part now. If she's 350 pounds at 18 years old, there's something that's in the head is different than the girl that's taking care of herself in the 30s, or even going back to the 18-year-old that's 40 pounds overweight. That's her just not being able to control what's going into her mouth. When she's 350 pounds overweight, she can't control what's going in her mouth. Maybe she suffers from a certain mental disorder, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And we don't have a statistic on, okay, maybe there is one, but there's no correlation between the 350 pound woman, how healthy, as Jazmen just said, well, that woman probably has problems having pregnancy, right? So now we're evening out the playing field of 350 pound woman. She might be just as unhealthy of having a baby as a woman who is 35 years old. So now it could change my answer based on what I want. Maybe these two are more, that fixated on the hotness of the 32-year-old. But for me personally, I want to have 3 to 4 kids. In your first scenario, I would 100% take the little bit overweight one. But now 350 pounds, again, I don't know the correlation of how, detrimental her health is now to have a kid at that weight. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah, I guess okay, Jazmen, I know you want to say something. So
sorry. I just really, so Steve, you said, so we're not talking about who men want to fuck, because there's no like female incels. Men have a broad range of people they want to fuck. There's not a lot of women who are like, oh my God, how do I get more men to want to fuck me? The question is, when you said for long-term relationships, men only care about beauty and fertility, is that, I want to clarify first, is that do you believe that? You think for long-term relationships, that is what men care about? And if so, I want to know where your evidence for that is, because that doesn't seem to me.
No, I don't think that's what I don't want to operate in like all or none. What I'm saying is that is at the top of most men's list. And I mean, you can ask any guy. I mean, even Alex said it. I'm sure Tom would probably agree. You line up a bunch of men, they're going to say, I don't need a statistic for it, but I'm not going to say it's only. You're using words like only.
That's what you said. You said that's all men care about. I urge people to rewind. That's what you
said. No, I said when you were asking Basil a question, I had said there's not much outside of, you had disqualified a couple things like besides X, Y, Z, and this. And are you saying whatever your statement was? And I was saying, hey, Jazmen, that those two things or whatever you lumped in there, that is at the top of men's list, and that's what we care about the most. Not that the other things are not important. And then Alex came in and said, there are other things
that makes more sense, because that's not what you originally said, but that makes more sense. So those are important things, but they're just as important, like most men, when they're looking, and that is why when you look at actual mating practices, who people actually end up with, men tend to date, and women, across IQ, across socioeconomic status, across education, across even attractiveness. Attractiveness is one of many things. A lot of guys, yes, maybe to have sex with, but when they're looking for long-term relationships, they don't want to date dumbass women. That it's just not. And if you're saying that that's
true, are you saying that every woman under the age of 28 is dumb?
No, I'm not saying they're dumb, but when you say that's what most men, that's the top thing you care about. Looks fake, no matter how young the
you keep bringing up the development of the
I'm not
cortex.
saying they're not important. I'm not saying they're not important. Those are important. You should find someone you're obviously really physically attracted to, but you should also find somebody that you can have a conversation with, somebody that has the same values as you. That's a big one. People tend to date people who have the same values as them. There are so many factors that contribute to long-term relationship success and that people look for long-term relationship success. And I think it's really reductionist to kind of reduce it, although you clarified it a little bit, which is now a little better, that is just 80% or more of what people are looking at, because it's not true, especially when you're looking at long-term relationships.
Jazmen, do you think the girls that are in their 20s had the same wisdom and experience that the girls in their 30s might have, the education level, the IQ level, etc.? Do you think those
it depends when? That's why I said 25. So I want to look at under 25. No, you can't even have. Your brain isn't even developed. Now 25 and 30.
But that's not my question. That's not my question though. If the 20-year-old had the wisdom of the girl that's 28, 30-year-old, and she had the same IQ level, do you think the guys would go after the younger girls, the girl that's in their 20s or the girl that's in her 30s?
That doesn't even make sense. You just said, same education level. How could you have the same education level when you just
I'm giving a hypothetical. I'm giving a hypothetical.
But the hypothetical is
not even... answer the hypothetical.
Yes. I'll say this. If the 18-year-old or the 20-year-old graduated high school at like 14 because she was so smart, got through college, did all of that, is a super whiz genius, then sure, that's 1 in a million. And those women are likely not going to go after men like you anyway, but sure. In that very rare scenario.
Now you just, why are you?
I'll say this. The 19-year-old.
I thought we were having a debate. I didn't think we
were throwing shots.
The 19-year-old that's super smart is going to be even smarter and have more wisdom.
She wouldn't go man like you at all, bro.
You're gonna have
all right, guys. Let's go one at a time. Let's
go back to Basil real quick.
Okay, so you said it's a diamond in the rough, right? If a girl has that type of intelligence and that IQ at such a young
diamond
age,
in the rough for someone at 20 years old to have the same to graduate college, yes.
Okay, fine. Diamond in the rough, right? To have the same IQ level, socioeconomic level, et cetera, et cetera.
Either way, but yes, you guys are completely.
That's fine. Using your words, diamond in the rough, wouldn't you also say the guys that are still older, wouldn't then they go towards those women, even if it's a lower percentage? Majority of guys aren't able to date those type of women because there aren't a lot of those women around.
I think that there's two different things here.
Let me.
Yeah, go ahead. It seems like real quick. I'm sorry. It seems like you guys are conflating two different things. There's like what people prefer, and then there's the pragmatics. So, Jazmen, it sounds like you're talking about the pragmatics, about the fact that people who work, they're in a certain socioeconomic system. They're going to be around other people who are like just as prestigious as them in their job. They're around people who are going to school for similar things. They're going to date people around the same age, around the same income and all of those things. Whereas they're talking about like more idealistic preferences of what it is that they would want, but they may not be around those people. Do you agree with that, Jazmen?
That's true. That's true, but I also think so. Yeah, the pragmatic, which is the most important thing, but also like if you ask like a 35-year-old lawyer, do you want a really like a 20-year-old or somebody who's more similar in your stage of life, who's gone through law school, gone through college, who has similar values to you? Because a 20-year-old could be very mature for her age, but that same 20-year-old is going to be more mature at 25 because that person's brain, no matter how amazing it is, it's going to get better by the time they're 25, 26, because nobody's prefrontal cortex is fully developed at 20. So I think that it's twofold. Like I can tell you, I've been in really high socioeconomic academic settings. I used to be an estate planning attorney where I would have guys with lots of money millions, tens of millions of dollar estates. And when if they got divorced or when they married, they're not marrying these young, especially if the old money world, new money may be different. Old money world, they don't, even though they have the access to these 20-year-olds, they're not marrying 20, 22-year-olds, no matter how great they are. They're typically looking for someone who shares their values, who's in a similar, even if it's a little bit younger, they're not going for those large age gaps. I mean, even if you look at some of the most famous, most like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, these people are not marrying 23-year-old fertile women. So
what's
this idea,
what's the large age gap to you, Jazmen?
10 years.
Okay, we literally said at the beginning of the thing 3, 5, 7 years at the most. We said that at the beginning of the show.
But then you guys are talking about men in their 30s who prefer 20-year-olds. So that's
wait, Hector, you did.
If you're 25, sure, date a 20-year-old. If you're 23, date a 20-year-old. If you're 31, it's not a good idea.
Hector, you did clarify that, to be fair. But I was actually I literally have this on my questions to ask. I do want to ask if Steve and Basil agree with you about the 3 to 5 years thing.
3 to 5 year age gap.
Yeah, he was talking about what is like too much of an age gap, and he said like I think 3 to 5 years, maybe even 7 years is fine, but over that is kind of too much. That's what
I mean. I would agree with Hector. A decade that's a whole different genres of what you're gonna like understand and know.
Yeah, okay. I would agree with Hector on that.
Like, could it work? Is it possible? Sure, it is. I mean, there's people out there that are 15 years apart, right? But for the most part, what we say here in the Mentuition Network is 3, 5, 7 years tops. That's more realistic, I think.
So you would argue,
if you're 35, then you shouldn't be looking for women who are 22, if you're under your advice.
Well, we don't necessarily tell men what they should or shouldn't do when it comes to selecting the opposite sex. But what we do is advise them as to if you're going past a certain amount of years, you're not going to be able to get the same kind of connection with a woman after. So, because looks is one thing. Cool. Looks is one thing. She looks good, whatever. But after that, then what are you looking for? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand.
We can go with this for a little bit longer. Alex, did you have other topics
you
wanted to get to as
can
well?
I add one quick thing?
Jasmine's stuck on this. So yeah, go ahead. We'll go
add
this
one
for a couple more minutes and then we'll let Alex move on.
The statistic was that 90% of men are marrying and dating women in between the ages of 26 and 33. That's the statistic that I'm looking up here. So that would mean inherently, if you're a female and you are hitting 30 or hitting, 32, 33, your options are going down for marriage, right? That by and large, that's what that means, right? Because
you're saying 90% of men are going for those women? Where can you send me that, or are those the people that are most likely to get 90% of marriages are happening in that age range? Because those are different things.
Marriage.
Yeah, those are very different things. No, that's a very different thing you're looking at. When you're looking at the age that most people get married, that's different because most people aren't getting married at 18 and most people are getting married at, that is the age range that the majority of people are getting married. That's not the age range the majority of people are going for and they're dating.
Jazmen,
like a 40-year-old, huh?
Your stat was 20 women who are 20 to 25 have a whatever percentage of divorce. It's a higher rate of divorce if they're between 20 and 25. So that would mean from 26 to whatever, what was the number? 30 something?
25 to 32.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that what you guys are saying, oh, the red pill guys say this. We're saying when you're hitting those ages, 28, 29, 30, your age, and 3 or 4 to 5 years older, you inherently are running out of time because of this statistic. And what women are doing is they're going on podcasts and they're saying, no, I'm not. I'm still hot at 33. And they're not. And if they want to get married, it's all about what you want. If you don't want to get married, then it nullifies the statistic. No one cares. But if you are trying to have multiple kids and or get married, you inherently are losing based off of your stat. You're losing.
No.
You're losing the amount of guys that are going to talk to you.
You are still better off even at 33 because it goes up 5% after 32. You're still better off at 33 than 23. So that's my point. I'm not saying 40. This is the thing. I have a very specific age range, like 25, 35. These are good ages. But I'm not talking about 45 girls.
Okay, but would you agree that at 29, 30, 31, 32, it's getting the pool, it's smaller and smaller and smaller that you're gonna get married at that point? based on your
It's not
statistic.
smaller and smaller and smaller, but you have less time.
Yes,
I guess if you're like 25, then you still have 7 years in your peak. If you're 32, then you have you have less time. Yeah, that's totally fair. But also you have to understand that everything is shifting. Like in Canada right now, if you look at Canada and Europe, high socioeconomic status people, they're having kids. The average age that they're having kids now is 36. So it depends who your circle is. It depends who you're around. It depends what you're looking for. And there's billions of people in this world, and not everyone's compatible. So like a woman like me, a high educated, whatever woman, work with a man like you, it's not going to work anyway. You're going for a completely demographic. I'm going for a completely demographic. Okay. My whole point is, I'm not saying this is one size fits all for everybody, but when you come here and you make blanket statements like women at 33, they're running out of time, they're not going to find it, it's not true at all. And it's not
I don't can do this real quick. I'm going to let everybody. I'm going to let everybody let everybody make a closing statement on this real quick, if we can. We can go to you, Hector, and then Jazmen, then Steve, then Alex, and then Basil.
Closing statement? We're
just let them encapsulate what it is they're saying, so that we can move on to something else. So try to keep it about a minute. And then if Hector, you want to go first.
I do want to get like 2 questions in, but go ahead, Hector.
I was just saying that we're not saying that at 33 you have no chance of getting married. All he did was use the statistic that you provided with him to prove his point.
It's not that women at 33 are less likely to get married. It's that they're less likely to have their marriage last. Same thing with women under 25. So it's not that 33-year-old women are now struggling to get married. It's not like no one wants to marry them. And your body count thing is also, there's been studies that lifetime partners do not impact your likelihood of getting married. Most people don't have trouble finding someone to marry them. People with high body counts, people in their mid to late 30s, whatever. It's about what's the likelihood that your relationship's going to last, because the crux of this question was, is it good advice to tell men that you should be going for women under 25 when all the available data shows that the likelihood of that relationship faring off good is unlikely. That's my point.
But no one on the Mentuition network is telling men go specifically for women under 25. That's what I think. That's where.
Yeah, and if you guys are in your 30s and you're saying, oh, we should be going for women around 5 years younger than us, then my age range should be perfect. But some of you are saying,
but again, you're an OnlyFans model, and I don't think anyone that follows.
I said women in my age range. I didn't say.
Oh, your age range, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, Alex, you said you had a couple questions.
I want to get these 2 or 3 questions in. So I got to push back against the women are running out of options. I think there's not really a significant difference between 10,000 and 5,000 options. I've had multiple, or at least several, female clients, both of them in their 30s. And you know what their biggest issue was? They didn't know how to select out of the thousands and thousands of guys they're matching with on Tinder. I even did an experiment where I used a grandma, like a literal fucking grandma, like a 75-year-old lady, and created a Tinder profile for her. You want to know how many matches she got in 24 hours? It was like 300, 400. Now, look, will every single one of those guys want to date her? No, probably not. Most of them wouldn't, right? But I guarantee of those 400 guys, at least 10% are going to be down to be in a relationship with her. And this is, again, a 70-year-old lady. So I think women in the West have so many options that just because, they go from being 20 to 30 and now they have substantially less options, they have such a fucking influx of options that it doesn't even enter the periphery. Again, there's not really a difference between 2,000 matches and 5,000 matches. Is still way too many matches for a girl to handle. So I think that statement is a little bit of it's just not accurate. The second thing I was going to say is I guess this would be my last question on this thread to kind of, again, test, I guess, your logic. So let's say Tom is 35. He comes to you for dating advice and he's like, hey, I am, hooking up with 2 girls. One is 34, one is 24. Everything is the same level of hotness, same body count, same everything, every possible thing. And I like them both. Which one should I date?
What's the body count?
Same body count. It's like,
give me a number.
3 for both.
One's 34, one's 24. And how old is Tom?
Tom is 35.
That's really your age, Tom?
No, just a hypothetical.
That is really my age, actually, but yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
No, it's not a hypothetical. This is real.
Is this? Are you going through this, Tom?
It's not real. I'm not only.
I think Tom is doing
It's
fine.
only two. Only two. If it's real, is that not only two chicks? Give me a break.
Yeah, Tom's got like 20 side pieces. But anyway, yeah.
Man, honestly, man, in a situation like that, 24, 34 years old, they're meeting on every metric. Realistically, that's not going to happen. I understand it's a hypothetical, but I mean, you're not going to get that, man. I mean,
is he asking you to pick between
the 34 and the 24? Hypothetically, they have the same
mentality. Alex,
what is what?
They have the same mentality too.
Everything is the same. Every possible factor is the same.
It's literally just the age. Only the age.
Only the age is the difference. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, well, I mean, I'll answer that. I'll take the 24-year-old.
Okay. That's what you. I mean, that's not what you would take. That's what you advise Tom.
See, here again, and in the same genres, they believe in the same things, the same values. They grew up. They watch the same shit. They watch Tom and Jerry. They both like the exact same TV shows. Type of music.
Everything is the same. It's no different than the hypothetical you asked Jazmen about a girl who's like 20 who went through all the education levels. So they're both.
This is because they're exactly 10 years apart. That's why this question is.
Yeah, I know what he's doing. I would still take 24-year-old.
Okay, that's fine.
What is your answer?
Can I comment?
Because I see what he's doing, but.
What is your answer, Alex?
This is not like something I'm doing. This is what you do in debate. You ask hypothetical.
No, I understand. You're trying to challenge our logic of going against the 10-year-old
the 3, 5, 7 thing that I said.
But I pointed out. I think Hector also said this. If she's 10 years older, then they're not going to have the same stuff. They're not going to have the same ideology. They're not going to have the same values. They weren't brought up the same. They don't like the same things. They weren't.
But again, you're not engaging in the hypothetical. I'm saying control for all that. Like you said earlier, what about a girl who's 20 years old and she's gone through all the education, right?
I got you. That's why I picked the 24-year-old for Tom.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, but Alex, you said something. I want to address something real quick because your first statement was talking about some old woman who was getting matches on Tinder. And I just want to. You would know this more than anyone else. What do most guys do when we go on Tinder? Most guys have a fucking swiper, right? They're not even looking at the old hag, right? They're just going like this. Most guys are doing this. They don't care. There's an old woman. I didn't mean to do that, right? Most guys are just fucking swiping. So what you're saying about Tinder, yes, she's going to get a bunch of matches. I would argue that most women that open up their phone that are not that attractive or older are still getting matches. So I don't know why you would say that.
Okay,
knowing
that's a fair point. But
knowing that most guys swipe quickly.
Wait, let me just quickly expand. Well, first of all, most people don't have auto swipers because that gets you banned nowadays.
No, not auto swiping. I'm talking about what
people are doing that. Yes, but that's
most
why
guys are doing that.
Right, I understand.
Are you
that's
saying that women don't have
Jazmen,
like a
give me a second.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
That's why we took this experiment further and we actually engaged with the guys. And there was multiple guys who were messaging her saying like, "Hey, when can we meet up?" There's multiple guys pursuing her. So we did account for that by taking this experiment further.
Well, what kind of guys were these?
Yeah,
you can watch the video, but some of them were pretty good.
That's not my point. My point is you made a point to say that she got 400 matches and her age didn't matter. And I'm
not saying it didn't matter. I'm saying that she still was able to do really fucking well despite the fact that she's old. Of course, if she was 30, that 400 would probably be 4,000, right? I'm not saying age doesn't matter. I'm just saying that 400 is still way more matches than a girl can handle.
Okay. All right. I mean, I guess, but again, my argument is that she's getting all those matches because guys are just swiping.
Who would you pick, Alex? The 24-year-old that meets every single metric that you want, or the 34-year-old that meets every single metric that you want? In that hypothetical,
you use the hypothetical for Tom.
For Tom. Who would you tell Tom to pick?
The 34 for sure.
Why?
Can you expand on that, please?
Yeah, of course. Because with a 34-year-old, you're gonna have you're just gonna be at a similar place of maturity. You're going to have similar interests and similar.
But they're meeting every single thing. You said that they're meeting every single.
I broke that down.
Everything.
Tom, didn't I break that down for Alex?
Yeah, you did say all else equals, so those would all be the same maturity level.
Alex, you're using the same argument you told him.
The only difference here, if you're making it the age, is going to be the clock on their biology. That's going to be about it.
Yeah, I would still argue that a 24-year-old, I mean, if everything is the same, she has the same interests, she has the same level of hotness, then I could see an argument for picking a 24-year-old because she'll probably stay hotter longer. I could
But
see
that
that
was your
argument.
thing, Alex.
I,
You said
I should have. Okay, wait, hang on. I should have expanded this hypothetical and clarified the fact that that while her personality is the same, her body count is the same, her interests are not going to be the same because the 24.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, because Basil said they like Tom and Jerry, they all of that, right?
Okay.
So I was born
clarify
in 1992. So right, yeah, you're right. There's a specific group, there's a specific generation that I would connect to a little bit more deeper than versus someone who was born in 2002 versus 1992, right? 10 years difference. But you said every single thing about them is the same. The only difference, and Basil even clarified, the only difference is that age.
Is that so? Alex, are you saying personality is the same, but like maturity would be different?
Yeah. So I will clarify that. Yeah. What I meant to say was maturity would be something that would be naturally different between those two girls. Interests would probably be different. So I'll retract the example I gave earlier.
Cool.
I'll give you a clear one.
Now let me ask you this, Alex. By maturity, how are we measuring her maturity? Like, what is it that we're doing to measure her maturity? Just her age? Is it her experience? Like, what is it?
I mean, it's like something that's really hard to quantify. It's like, how do you, I mean, a lot of it would be like a gut feeling type of thing. Like, what is she, where's she at in life? Is she trying to go out and party, or is she like focused on her career and, self-development, or spending time with her friends, or building?
Well, if the 24-year-old is focused on wanting to be a wife and a mother, I would go with the 24-year-old over the 34-year-old, because we can all agree that there's 34-year-olds out there that are still partying.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean,
that's what I'm trying. That's why I'm trying. Okay, so that's why I'm trying to control for that. So let's say everything is the same besides her maturity level and besides her interests.
Okay, maturity level in terms of motherhood and marriage.
Let's not even mention motherhood. Let's say they're both open to being a mother, but one of them is Generation Z, so she's on TikTok, she's going out with her girlfriends. The other one, she's a little bit older. She watches similar shows as you. She focuses on her career, or she focuses on that, but they're both equally open to being mothers.
Okay, so they both don't watch Tom and Jerry.
Let's say they both watch Tom and Jerry. I know that's important.
No, that's the same interest. So it's like they're different. The 20-year-old or the 24-year-old doesn't like it. So no, for Tom, I would pick the 34-year-old. That changes everything.
Okay.
Alex, it did sound like earlier you wanted to change topics, so I'm trying to. We're about an hour and a half in. I want to make sure we have time, and everybody has time to talk about something else. So you asked them a bunch of questions at the very beginning. Was there another thing that you wanted to move to, or do you guys want to stay on this?
Well, there's like a million other things I wrote down, but I want to give Jazmen, Basil, and Hector and Steve a chance to ask questions.
You guys want to get into hypergamy? Because again, this idea that women, and it's funny when guys put taller, like women want men that are better than them, like taller. That's like saying men are hypergamous because they want women that are prettier than them and have bigger tits. Like, that's just a really bizarre one. And also hypergamy also isn't really shown when you look at, like, there's a big study that was done from like the 1900s to like 2021. Typically women dated men at the same status as their fathers. They weren't able to date up. Now they're more likely to do that than women are, but in general, like I said, people tend to mate across. This idea that there's this bunch of women that are dating these men that are way better than them is not true. Now, when you looked at money before,
dating or attracted? Dating or attracted?
Attracted doesn't matter, right? Like, if you guys had an app, like you guys always use dating. Like,
let's clarify that, Jazmen. Let's clarify that. Are we attracted to or dating? Because I agree. The Starbucks barista might not necessarily know how to access these men that she's attracted to. The Starbucks barista might not have access to Drake and fucking 21 Savage and Brad Pitt. Like, I mean,
Hector, we're talking about dating and relationships. We're not talking
about. My question to you is hypergamy reflected in real world mating practices? So, pragmatically, is there this big amount of women who are dating way above their status, way above their income level, etc.? in any time in history. Now, income level is a little different. That's why I said the father. Most women dated men at the same status as their father. Has that actually been reflected in mating practices? Because I haven't found really any
long-term
evidence
mating
for it.
practices.
Yeah, long-term mating practices. Has that been reflected in your view or not? Because if we're just going by preferences, men, if they had an app where there was 3 times as many women as men, like on these apps, and they could pick the girl's cup size, I'm sure they'd say, oh yeah, I want a girl who has double Ds. But in real life, that doesn't mean that those women that don't have double Ds are not as successful with men. And that's the same thing we're seeing with these apps. We're seeing that, like, if you look at the amount of partners super like tall men and short men have, it's not that different, or overweight men and skinny men have, it's not that different. People typically just mate across. So my question is hypergamy actually reflected in real world practices?
Well, I'm more of an ass man, if you ask me.
Wait, sorry, say that again.
I'm more of an ass man. I like ass more than boobs.
Me as well.
Yeah, but as far as, you know, women dating across, yeah, I mean, I could agree that women typically date men that are at access to them. You know what I mean? Like, a fucking peasant woman won't necessarily have access to the king. I mean, I get that. But what we're saying is, typically when it comes to attraction, yeah, the woman is going to be more attracted to the man that's taller than her, the man that's better looking than someone who she's around typically, especially now with social media.
I understand that, but does that, just like
We're
I said,
long-term dating, though, right? We're going to stay on long-term dating.
Yeah, it's long-term.
A woman on this app. You might say, I want a woman whose ass is this fat. I want her waist to be this big. You might play around and do all that on apps. And it might be that, you know, all the men are swiping on the hottest girls. If the discrepancy was flipped and there was 5 times as many women on than men, and they were less selective. But is hypergamy actually something that's happening? Is it something that we should be concerned about? Because like you said, if it's all about access, then the best position that either men or women can be in is being in a position where you're around and you're across from people that you want to be with. So therefore, if you want to marry a high value man, you want to marry an educated man, you want to marry a wealthy man, it's better for you to be an educated and a woman at his status, because that is what those people are more likely to be together and end up together than a lot of the stuff you guys say.
The best
you guys, us, or the red pill community? Let's clarify that.
Okay, my question is this: you guys talk about what men are attracted to. Men are attracted to this kind of woman. What is that practical dating advice? Like, if you're giving practical dating advice to women or men, it seems to be that people are mating across. So to put yourself across people of the opposite gender that are basically at your level, is that advice you agree with?
Well, right now with social media, a woman could put herself in any man's eye view.
But we're not seeing that social media has changed this. We're not seeing that hypergamy has taken off since the advent of social media. That's the problem, right? You know, people say this, they look at Tinder swipes, but then you look at like GSS survey data, whatever, this idea that there's a small percentage of men and they're getting all this women isn't reflected, because when you flip it, it also looks like a small percentage of women are getting like 90% of the men. And what's really happening is there's a percentage of people that are more promiscuous, high in sociosexuality, they're fucking each other, and the rest of the people are just really just mating across. So social media.
You don't agree that 5% of women, that 90% of women are only swiping on about 5% of men.
No, they're swiping. I agree that they're swiping, but just like you said, that dating apps aren't always reflective of the world. Dating apps are not reflective of real world mating practices. That's my point. There's a lot of shit. I'm sure when I'm on a dating app, I just swipe and then I never talk to them again. But who I'm actually going to marry, who I'm actually going to interact with, who I'm actually going to be with, it's probably somebody who's on my level, irrespective of who I'm swiping on. So I'm saying, if you take the swipes on social media and you try to look at if that's reflected in the real world, the data is showing that it's not. So where does hypergamy come in?
We are measuring 2 different things as well, because on dating apps, you're really only looking at the person and you really only are gauging like how good looking they are. Whereas in real life, most people meet their partners through work or church or like at social events, parties, stuff like that.
Mutual friends.
That's more pragmatical. That's, practical. That's what happened. But on the dating app, that's idealistic.
Correct. Okay, let me just add
I don't think Jazmen's talking about dating apps, though. I think she's talking outside dating apps.
Okay, let me just add something in though, Jazmen, because I want to be very clear. When I brought up hypergamy, I was talking. You guys asked at the beginning, what are some of the things that red pills say? And red pillers say that women are naturally hypergamous. This is true. There are facts, data, and statistics to back this up. You can look it up if you want. On a grandiose scale, 100%, 50%, whatever, women tend to be more than 50% of women are hypergamous. So what men need to understand is that women are hypergamous. It doesn't, yes, you're right. Maybe they're going to end up dating a woman that is on, across the line or whatever it is. And maybe they do need to surround themselves by those, around those women. But what I'm saying is what Red Pill says is that you need to understand that women are hypergamous so that you can get the most women or the best woman that you can get. Meaning, go to the gym, right? You can't make yourself taller, but get your money up, do these things because because then once your level rises, right? Or at least maybe, let's say, you want a fucking Aston Martin, but you only really get your, at your 30s or 40s, you never made it to that level to buy that car. You can only buy a BMW, whatever. Okay, well then get a BMW bitch, right? Like what we're saying is build yourself up to a certain point and then maybe date across, but you've built yourself up. So being hypergamous or understanding that women are hypergamous is understanding female nature. And that's what Red Pill is trying to teach. It's getting convoluted by guys who are doing this is Black Pill, this is this, and Andrew Tate's the leader of Red Pill. What we're trying to say is if you understand that as a man, you can better yourself and you can get the best woman that you can get.
Well, so here's the follow-up question. If you say that over 50% of women are hypergamous, like in what sense? Do you mean that?
Yeah, like what is the metric you're looking at?
What women say they want. There's a bunch of studies. There's a bunch of people that go around. I like guys that are taller than me. I like guys that are this. I like guys that are that. They don't end up dating a guy.
Okay, so are you talking about what women want or what women do?
Yeah, we're running into the same
look, my example. Here's an example.
If you poll women, they'll say that they want somebody who makes $200,000. But if you see what they actually date in reality, they're not dating the people that they're told that they want. So I think we're asking you to
Tom, hold on, Tom, stop there. So if they want the guy that's $200,000, you would want to get as a man. You're like, well, that's a goal that I want to get so that I can get the most women that I can achieve. That's what men want. We want the pick of all the girls in the pick.
Is that when you look at BMI, you look at height, even when you look at money, it's not that the poor guys are having just as much sex as the rich guys. The short guys are super tall and super short. I think they have an average lifetime difference of partners of like 3. If you look at BMI, fat guys actually seem to have more sex than fit guys. So it doesn't seem to be that it's going to get you more women. And when you're talking about hypergamy, height is a stupid one because men are just taller than women. That's like saying you're hypergamous because you want a woman with bigger tits than you. You want someone who has better tits than you. That's not hypergamy.
I think Steve is an ass.
Women have only recently gotten into being able to make money for themselves. And if you look at the graph, there's a study done on like 23 countries. When you look at women who are now every year, they're more and more willing to date men that make as much or less than them because now they finally the reason that women wanted men who make all this money before is because they couldn't make it themselves. I'm not saying people don't want people who make a lot of money. And there's increasing data that actually men care a lot about how much money women make too, including the evolutionary biologist David Buss, who's like the red pill like God. He said the same thing. He found the same thing. There's been increasing data that men now care too, because most incomes now are 2-family incomes, and almost half of U.S. families, the woman is making as much, almost as much or more than the guy. So hypergamy is on the decline, if you even want to say that it ever existed.
But Jazmen,
so when you go ahead, tell men to get better and do those things, they could attract a different caliber of women. But this idea that there's just like this alpha male and he's fucking all
not even
guys
different caliber of women, they can attract more women. The guy who's on the fucking basketball team and he's the point guard, or the guy who's a fucking quarterback or in the frat, he is going to be able to bang more chicks than the fucking nerd. So what we're telling you is maybe you won't ever reach that plateau of being the fucking quarterback, but be the best guy that you can get so you can get your pick of the most women. That's what and then we're telling you women are hypergamous by nature. That's the way they are. So you have to hit whatever bar you can. If you're short, you can't just fucking.
Would you date a shorter guy, Jazmen?
I'm 5 feet. Like, I'm 5. Who the fuck is what guy is for? You have to be a guy.
That's not answering the question. He's asking you a question.
You go to Taiwan. You go to Taiwan and you meet. I don't know.
I date a guy who's 5'6", and I can date a guy who's 6'4".
A Taiwanese.
No, 4'10".
No, that's not what I'm asking you, Mr. Jafar. You go to Taiwan on vacation, right? You just hit the lotto. You go to Taiwan on vacation. You meet a nice little brown Asian guy. He's 4'11". Would you date him? Would you marry him?
I date a guy who's 5'4", 5'5".
Would you marry him?
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Would you marry him?
Yes or no?
Would
She
you date
wouldn't
a
do
girl who has smaller tits than you? Maybe, right? Like it's
I'm
a
an ass
weird
man.
thing. If you
I
have
like
titty in a sense,
verification.
I like-
What do you think we have to
I like
tell
ass.
Yes or no?
Hold on. They are asking. They are.
Can we get a yes or no?
Somebody who is 4'11" or 4'10".
The whole
They are
point
asking.
is that when a woman like you, we're just selecting for different traits.
Have you guys-
so that's like
have you guys heard- have you- I don't mean to cut you off, Jazmen.
I'm going to keep talking if you're going to interrupt me because my
No. I don't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask you a quick question. Have you guys heard of that app Pinata something? The
Can you
Pinata
wait till I
app.
finish? You can ask me the
Oh
question.
yeah. What are finished real quick? But they still didn't really get an answer if you would date somebody who's shorter.
Yeah, maybe. It's not like my first
Okay.
pick, but again, I'm somebody when I would say I would date a guy in the bottom 5% of height. I would date a guy who's 5'4", 5'5" because I'm 4'11", 5 feet. So if I would date a guy who's in the bottom 5% of height and I don't have to, and when the data shows that short guys are having just as many partners as tall guys, it seems to be the biggest contributing factor to how much sex men have is game, charm, and how much they want to. Right? Like
Okay,
it's
go ahead and
not
say what you were going to say, and then we'll
Yeah,
let
yeah, all guys.
Yes.
You still haven't answered though. Would you date
Yeah, if everything else about him was good, yeah, I would.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
if everything else about him was good, I would. I'm not kidding. But I would, and I personally, although I am a girl that can get like guys at any height, I typically like I've dated guys that are 5'6", I've dated guys that are 6'4", I've dated guys of all heights. Now it's really rare. I think it's less than 1% of men that are under 4'11". So
not in Taiwan.
Like, I don't in Taiwan. And I don't think even in Taiwan, you're saying that what percentage of men are 4'11" just in Taiwan?
I don't know. It was just an extreme. It was just an extreme hypothetical. But have you guys heard of the Pinata app?
You're not a fan of. My point is
have
here
you
that
guys heard, I'm just messing with you. Have you guys heard of the Pinata app?
Pinata app.
Yeah. It's an app where you like grab people's faces and put them on other people's body. I've just been thinking about that the whole time when you said put your body on a 22-year-old. I'm sorry. I wanted to say that since the beginning.
Tom, you were going to say something?
I was going to let Jazmen finish what she's saying, and then I know Basil was trying to get in a minute ago.
And after that, I want to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to Basil.
Jazmen, do you remember what you were?
Yeah, no, my point is just that it seems to be that people, like I said, are just mating across. So short guys, unfit guys, guys that aren't fit, fat guys, poor guys, they're having just as much sex as these high value men. They're just with different people. The majority of people are having sex like in a relationship with one person, and it typically tends to be somebody at their level. So when you say women are hypergamous, especially when you're talking about height, that's like saying men are hypergamous because they want women more attractive than they are. It's just
so what
it's
is the difference maker for those people then? What are the difference makers then? If people across all heights, body weights, all of these things, they're all having sex. What is the difference maker for people who are having sex and not having sex?
It seems to be people who, one, are putting themselves out there, game, charm, people who do well with women, right? I mean, a lot of times, even on these incel forums, you see guys who they think it's all because of their height or their jawline, and they're doing all these ratio things. And then you look at the guy and you're like, based on your looks alone, that's not the reason you're not getting women. It's because of you're just weird and you don't know how to engage with them. Whereas, so that's my point. It's not about status, money, height, how fit you are, although those are great things and you those are good things for you to aim for, but those aren't the only way to get relationships. A lot of people
at the beginning of the stream, I said self-development. Go out, start communicating with people, learn the art of small talk, develop game experience, run around the block a couple.
Hypergamy come into practice? That's my question. How does women being hypergamous affect anything? Because it doesn't seem like they are, one, and it definitely doesn't seem like it's reflected in actually who they end up with. Even though if you pull them, they may say, "Yeah, I want a guy who's 6 feet tall." Just like if you pull men, they all say, "Oh, I want a woman with a fat ass," but that doesn't mean women who don't have a fat ass are having trouble in the dating market. So my question is hypergamy?
But there's more men having trouble in the dating market versus women.
But it's not the men that are shorter or poorer or fatter.
I asked you, I said, would you date a man that's 4'11"? You gave me a whole circle of answers, and you never said yes or no until we had to basically pull your teeth for you to say yes. I would.
When I say I would date a guy who's 5'5",
you said 5'5", but that's still 5 inches taller than you. 5'6".
But I'm a really short girl. I'm picking men who are in the bottom.
You're hypergamous, Jazmen. You just
a lot of men who are 5'5", 5'6" are thinking that's the reason they don't get women, and that's not true.
Would you prefer a man taller than you?
If I was hypergamous, that's like saying like I said, the height thing makes no sense. Would you date a woman?
It does, though.
So hold on, real quick. Hold on, Jazmen. What they're saying is that they're just saying that women want to date somebody who's taller than them, not that there's this objective scale. And so the taller you are, the more women that you're taller than. And that's going to give you a bigger pool of women that will find you attractive.
No, but on top of that, it's going to be easier for a guy that's taller to get
If you're going to say that's hypergamy, then you also have to say men are hypergamous because they want women that are prettier than them.
Sure, but Basil, go ahead.
The guy that's taller, it's going to be easier for him to attract the woman than a guy that's 5'5".
My point is that when you're actually looking at what actually happens and who people are actually partnering with, it doesn't seem that tall men are doing much better, having more partners. That's my point.
Yes, because there's many other factors that qualify a man. There's more prerequisite than just height. I agree with you. A guy could be tall. A guy could be tall and go to the gym and he's muscular, but the motherfucker sounds like goddamn. He can't communicate with anyone. He can't dress.
Here's what I'm
he makes poor financial choices versus the shorter guy that's 5'6".
Point is that women, this idea of hypergamy and that all these women are going for these top men, or that these top men are having an easier time based on things like height, based on things like money, based on things like fitness, doesn't seem to be borne out by the data.
And my point is that men who understand that women are hypergamous and they act on that and try to better themselves the best they can will get more women to pull from, which is what most men want. If you're gonna try to say they end up dating across eventually, that's cool. But if I'm a man and I understand that hypergamy exists, and I go from a Chevy Malibu to a BMW, and then I never get to that Corvette that I wanted, but I got that BMW. Well, now at least I can say, damn, all right, I can date across, like you're saying. A lot of men are stuck. When you're on these podcasts, that blanket statement where women are hypergamous shouldn't bother any. I don't know why that's a problem. Why is that problematic?
I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying that it's not reflected in real world mating practices. So when you say, oh, if you do all these things, you could get more women, it doesn't seem like those guys are getting more women. They're just getting different women. And that's fine.
Okay. You should hypergamy literally says when a woman dates across and up.
Yes.
Across being one of the major 50% of hypergamy is women dating across.
People date across. This idea that they date up is not really borne out by anything. My point here, and we can just end it here because this is what the data shows, is that you still have the same amount of partners, whether you're high value or low value. So clearly those traits that make you quote unquote high value, or this hypergamy that women inherently have, isn't actually being reflected in how many partners men actually get.
So maybe real quick, from what
you would date a guy that's 4'11", Jazmen? Because I know one. I know a guy. He's 4'11".
Would you date a girl that has an uglier face than you?
You said what?
Would you date an uglier girl?
Are you saying I'm relatively handsome?
Let's not make it personal.
Okay, let's go. I feel like the data does show that women are
how much uglier is she? In your opinion,
hold on. The data does show that that women are more likely to date people who make more than them. There's like out of marriages, I think it's something like 10% of women are making more than the man that they're with, whereas like by far the majority, it's like 40% is where the man makes more, and then the others are within like I think it's like $40,000 to $60,000 of each other. And so it seems like by far the majority of the time, if somebody's making more, it is going to be the man, right?
Yeah, but that's also because and that's been changed. It's literally on a down. I can actually share a graph if you guys want to share the screen, where it's literally like a downward spiral like this, like a linear line since women have entered the workforce. So while it's still true because it's very recent that women have started entering the workforce, it's changing very rapidly, that women have this preference because they don't need that preference anymore. And now almost half of US households have that not even being a factor. So I'm not saying women don't want that. I'm just saying that it doesn't seem to reflect reality. So sitting online being like, women are hypergamous, this is what they're going for. Why don't we look at what actually is people are doing? Like I said, if you want to give practical advice, like if this debate is about what advice do we give people, and when all the data shows that it tends to be that people are dating across, the best advice here seems to be that you should surround yourself with people who share your values and around people who are equal to you as women and as men, so that you can have long relationships that prosper.
Okay, we're gonna let Alex get in real quick because he's
I want to really quickly give Hector and Steve a chance to respond to that, and then I want to get into my line of questions.
Okay.
Nope. The best advice is women are hypergamous by nature. Get your money up, dude. Get better, and then you'll be able to. It's not they should just date across. You need to say it. They understand it so that they can better themselves. I don't agree.
And then they end up just dating across anyway, so you just wasted your time. All right.
Yeah, but they're higher than they were before, and they date across to get a hotter woman.
Yeah, become the ultimate.
I want to. No. I don't want to. I want to just be able to get a few questions. I got literally 3 questions. Okay, so the first one is this to Hector and Steve, and I guess Basil as well. Would you agree that both men and women are hypergamous?
Do I agree that men and women are both hypergamous? In what I mean, the hyper and hypergamous is like saying that the man is better than the woman. So what are we talking about? Because Jazmen said, you can say a guy's hypergamous if he wants to date a woman that looks better than him. Yeah, I would want my woman to look better than me. I want her to be hot. I don't care. Like, what do you mean by what do you mean by better than me?
And are we looking at the exact definition of hypergamy, or is this just some?
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I thought we were talking about wants, right? So we've kind of established, or at least Jazmen was saying, the data shows that most people date across. But you were earlier referencing, but what do women want? Well, typically women want a guy who's this, and this. So the question is, okay, but would it not also apply that most men want a girl who's hotter than them, right?
Okay, well, let me ask you this: Are men and women attracted to the same things?
No.
In each other. Okay, so by definition, hypergamy is the action of marrying or forming a sexual relationship with a person of superior sociological, or educational background. So since men are more so attracted to a woman for her beauty, women are more so attracted to men for their status. How could men be hypergamous?
It's only sociological.
That's what the definition says.
Okay, but then
according to Oxford language dictionary,
right? But then height goes out the window.
Yeah, height goes out the door.
How much you go to the gym goes out the window. All that stuff that you talked about earlier goes out the window if it's only about sociological and education.
Okay, but how many rich short guys can get women?
Oh, wow.
I have no idea.
Are you saying they can't? Because I'm telling you, short men get women, whether they're rich or not rich.
So okay, cool. But again, and you even said the kind of women though earlier, correct? That they're getting.
Yeah, people tend, if you're attractive and rich, you're probably going to be with someone attractive and rich. If you're rich and ugly, you're going to be less likely than the attractive and rich guy. Like I said, people date across attractiveness too. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to get more attractive, but you guys can on one hand say hypergamy applies to women because they want men taller than them, but it doesn't apply to men when they want women more attractive.
Well, you use that example. You use taller. I don't think any of us
height. Yeah, I brought that example up because you brought up height. You said women. That was in your first thing. I have it written down here. Women are hypergamous. They want men that are taller than them. And you asked me a million times about height, you can on one hand use that
about height because you brought up height. You said that you don't care about men's height. That you date a man 5'6", and then I asked you if you were willing to date a man that's 4'11".
And you said you guys should rewind to the very beginning where Alex said, what are some things you agree about? And someone said women are hypergamous. They want men that are taller than them. That was everyone rewind to the beginning because that's what you guys said. I would never have brought up height for hypergamy because I know that's not part of the definition. But once you brought it up, it's a really good opening to talk about.
So what you're saying is that out of my mouth, I said something about height before you brought up height.
Steve did. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Steve brought up height before any of us did.
I was just going over the traits of hypergamy. I think that's why I brought
Yeah,
it
and
up,
that's not a trait of hypergamy.
Okay. Anyway, do you think
It
that
is a trait of women across the board want to date guys who are taller. That was my point. They don't want guys who are short.
Never mind. Go for it, Alex.
Okay, so
Is that not hypergamous in nature?
So how come
That's
this,
hypergamous, and it's also
conversation?
hypergamous where you don't want women that are prettier than you. That's the whole point. But go ahead, Alex.
Okay, then let's.
Why would I care if a woman is prettier than me? Why are you saying that? Yes, I want.
Okay, Alex.
Okay, let me just ask this question. Do you not think that both men and women want someone who is better than them? If men prioritize looks more, then that would be more attractive. If women prioritize, I don't know, financial stability more, then that would be that. Do you not think both genders want the best that they can get?
I agree that both genders want the best that they can get.
So then it's not just women that are hypergamous, it's men as well.
Yeah, but we're using hypergamy like it just means all these things that we're saying. Hypergamy literally means the definition that I read. Jazmen, earlier too, you said, wouldn't that make men hypergamous if they want a woman prettier than them? Okay, that doesn't mean that a man is hypergamous, because hypergamy means dating someone with more sociological or educational background than you.
But you guys, wait, Jazmen.
You said taller, and the first thing I said about hypergamy is putting height in is stupid because it doesn't make sense because of that reason. That is what I was pointing out. I was pointing out how stupid Steve's statement was because it fucks up hypergamy all across the board. That was my point.
You guys,
and he still doubled down on it.
And, the reason why I said that is because that's what we say. That's what you say. We say on Red Pill Podcast. Yes.
But
okay.
you still agree with it.
I said at the beginning, hold on, can you let me speak? I said at the beginning, you guys asked, back to the same thing, we're running in circles. What are the statements that Red Pill podcasts say? And I say, they say that women are hypergamous, that they want to date guys that are taller, whatever it is. I'm going off of the definition of what people say Red Pillers say, and I'm using that as to form my art. And I'm using that to form my argument. That's why I said it.
Which is that you agreed, and we just asked.
I'm just talking about the context of what this pod is about.
Let me get like 3 to 5 minutes of just asking questions, and then I'll let you guys take it off. Okay, but according to your own beliefs and rhetoric, you don't really fully agree with the Oxford definition. You did not bring up education once when you were talking about, how to become more valuable as a man. You did talk about, socioeconomic status, right? That was mentioned, but you also talked a lot about height. You talked about going to the gym. You talked about all these other things, right? Aside from socioeconomic status. So it seems like you don't even fully buy into these Oxford definition, which is fine because I don't really buy into it either. So
you're talking directly to Hector?
You're talking to me?
He's talking to me.
Yeah, all of you guys, Hector and Steve. I mean, unless you disagree.
No, I don't. I think at the beginning when you asked that question, I said I think you should level yourself up completely. You pointed out that he could only have that job. He's in this certain job field. I said if you cannot change that, then you need to level up in different ways. And then I said hygiene, your clothing, your appearance, etc.
Yeah, I think all that stuff is fair, and I do think that that's good that you should do that, but that would not fit into the Oxford definition of hypergamy.
Well, you phrased the question a certain way, and I couldn't change the parameters. So,
again, you said, "What do Red Pillars say?" This is what Red Pillars say. Their definition of what hypergamy is. Now we're talking about Oxford later on. I didn't bring up the Oxford Dictionary definition because we were talking about what Red Pillar podcasts say.
Yeah, what we agree and what we disagree with.
They define it as tall. You go on any whatever podcast, Fresh and Fit, they say hypergamy and then they list it's because they're taller. I'm just going off of what they say, and I still think that that's helpful to men overall. Even if you're using the definition wrong, Jazmen, that's still helpful information to men, and you can lump in socioeconomic or whatever the actual definition says too. What I'm saying is it's helpful overall. That men know. And you guys keep sticking on to you. Do you think the Oxford? Okay,
Steve.
You know the Oxford definition. Sorry.
Okay, maybe there's a misunderstanding. I haven't been talking about Red Pill for like over an hour. I asked that question initially just to figure out your views, but for the last like hour and a half, I've been talking about what you believe, not what the red pill believes. So maybe there's a misunderstanding there. So I guess I'll ask a more general question, so there's no confusion. What do you think women are attracted to in men in relative order of importance?
I think in relative order of importance, I think they're looking for a guy who is financially stable. He's good looking, charming. I still think they think he should be taller than her, by even if it's 4 inches or whatever Jazmen said. He's a leader. I mean, that's probably put that up there, but he exhibits what a man should be. He's not a pushover guy. I think that would give a guy the best chance. That's what I think, in my opinion. There's probably
the first thing you said is financially stable. When you say financially stable, do you mean also like financially successful, or for example, with someone who makes like $30K a year, but they're able to maintain that? Would that qualify someone who's financially stable?
I think at base level, he's financially stable. To me, means that he can take care of himself, and he probably has enough money to take care of her to some degree. He's not just making $30K a year. It depends on the lifestyle that he wants and she wants, and whatever girl he gets with, but not like Rocky. Doesn't have a job, part-time, losing jobs. Like, he's stable. I think women want a stable guy. I think a woman in a relationship with a guy who's having problems with jobs and money, it's most likely not going to work.
So yes, I do agree with you that most women want a guy who's stable financially and all other things, but there's a second part to this, which is also that the guy is above a certain income bracket. You mentioned that it depends on the girl. Okay, that's fair, but what's like the minimum? Let's take, I don't know, the average woman from Ohio. Like, what do you think is the minimum that guy needs to make to be in the, whatever, the top tier of men that she's going for?
The top tier of men that she's looking for,
or that she's willing to.
If you're talking about the top tier of guys that she would want, I would say she would want a guy that's making 6 figures, 100,000 or more. If we're looking at the top tier, but could a guy making less than that still give her, we're going mid tier, low tier? Could that guy give her a good life at 80,000, 75,000? Maybe. Depends on what she's looking for, what she wants.
But you would say that guy with 6 figures has a much better chance, or than a guy who's making 5 figures, right?
I would say so. Yeah, he's more financially. Now we're going over financially stable. He's now in the top 10% or 15% of earners in the United States.
Okay, fair enough. What was the second point you made? You said financially stable. What was the second one that you mentioned?
I said financially stable, charismatic. I said that he would be taller than her by some level, because Jazmen was saying, we were having trouble with the 4'11" thing, and then I went on to say a good leader. All the attributes that I think women typically want a man to be.
Okay, literally 2, 3, and 4. We're in complete agreement on. I do agree that a man should be charismatic. I do think the majority of women want a guy who's taller than her. I do think most women want a guy who's a good leader. The only one that we're going to bicker about is the placing of financially stable, and specifically the part about that guy, the additional parameters that, like, hey, if this guy makes 6 figures, he's going to have more success than a guy who makes 5 figures. If anything, I'll put that at the bottom of the list. But honestly, I think it's relatively insignificant. I don't think that if you look at guys who make 6 figures, they're significantly more successful when it comes to dating the guys who make 5 figures. I've personally been broke, and I've personally been, well over 6 figures, not well over, but definitely solid 6 figures. And I wouldn't say that like I have an easier time getting girls now. I think one of the criticisms I have with the red pill, which I know you guys don't identify with, but it does seem like you sort of at least semi-agree with this idea, which is that if you make more money, that will improve your dating success. But it just seems like that never pans out.
You're talking. Go ahead, Basil.
Alex, would you say that if you're making a certain type of, let's say you're making 6 figures compared to the guy that's making 5 figures, that he might be more intelligent in a stance mentally?
Possibly, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay, let me ask another question though, Alex. Let's say the guy who is making 6 figures a year, he's driven, he's doing well, very charismatic. He's got his shit going for him, right? He's making good money. And then you got a guy making $40K a year. He also is, goes to work every day. He's not on the same financial level as the guy that's $100,000, but he's making $40K. He's a good guy. Do you think the guy that's making $100,000 versus the guy that's making $40,000, all things equal besides the money, you still think that they're going to be the same across the board with getting women?
So if we're assuming that he's equally motivated, equally driven, equally hardworking, then I think, yes, they will have similar results.
Okay, so if the guy that's
in the amount of women or the kind of woman that they're dealing with?
I would say probably, well, typically people date within the socioeconomic class. So if when you say type, you mean like how, what pedigree does the woman come from, then no. But if you just mean attractiveness, like physical attractiveness, yeah, I don't think there's going to be a big difference.
Okay, so I would argue that if a woman were on a date with a guy and that same woman dated the guy who, let's say they both went on the date. She went on the date. She's swiping on Tinder. She got the $40,000 guy. First question at the date was, how much do you make? She found out he made $30K or $40K. And then the other guy she meets on the date, she finds out that he makes $100,000, that she would be more attracted to the guy that has $100,000.
Yeah, and I would argue that you guys greatly, greatly overvalue money. I've been the guy that makes way less than 30,000. I've been the guy that makes like 0,000, right? And I never had a problem getting laid or even having a relationship in those times, right? I literally used to live in a house with maybe 10 people. I was like in like a little shed or whatever. I would pull girls to that. Never an issue. I think that there's a small percentage of girls that do really focus on money, generally like the gold digger types, but the majority of girls, for them, money is not a big deal. They care more about ambition, your drive, stuff like that, rather than how much money you're making.
It's but it's not about just getting laid though. It's about I would still say the guy that is making 100,000, she would look to him for more of a long-term relationship. Right, you're talking about short term. Yeah, maybe both of them would get laid, but who is it going to work out?
I'm not talking about that. Like I said, I did have also long-term relationships even when I was broke.
So we're talking, to clarify, we're talking about long-term relationships.
It's a very specific kind of guy too, Alex. Though,
yeah,
because I can identify with him too. I mean, I've been broke too, doing the same. Like what you, for example, last time we were on. All in the same room, we spoke about that. You talk about you think game is more important, which I do agree. Yeah, game is very important, especially when attracting a girl or a woman, right? You said that you explained about you were living with somebody and someone got stabbed or got into a fight or whatever. You remember? Do you recall that conversation?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I agree, right? It's a certain kind of level of game for a man to attract women. And I don't think that money always plays a big part. But in the long term, though, like if a woman is dating to get married, like we can't deny the fact that she's going to look for a man who's more financially stable, who's making a bit more money than the average guy in order for her to feel secure dating this man long term, especially when we're talking about marriage. Now the fuck yeah, I mean I said it earlier today. Tito and Ray gonna get pussy all day, but if because of their game, because they have certain prerequisites that women are looking for, especially younger women. But when a woman's looking to get married, you're telling me that she's gonna overlook a man's financial stability just because he has a little bit of game?
Women do it all the time. That's why in this list, when I said in relative order of importance, number one would be game. Number two would probably be looks, but number one would be game. His financial situation will be way at the bottom of the list.
Even if they're dating with attempts to be married, you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Do you not think that women marry broke guys all the time? It happens literally like 100 times a day, 1,000 times a day. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's a high percentage of women who get divorced because of financial issues. So again,
I'm not saying it's smart. I'm not saying it's
number two.
It isn't going to last.
I think it's commitment, finances, and then infidelity. If I'm not mistaken,
like 41%. I had to set up.
I'm not saying. Hang on, you're misunderstanding. I'm not saying it's a good idea for women to marry guys who are broke. I'm just saying it happens all the time. We're looking at the what, not the ought.
Well, I'm arguing.
I think that I want to clarify real quick because I feel like you guys are probably talking more about like within the dating marketplace, like there's going to be higher quality of women that the other guys are going to be getting. Not that there aren't women who are going to date these other guys, but the guys who are higher up in the echelon are going to have access to higher quality women. Is that not what you were saying?
So the higher, it's going to be higher quality of women. So for example, when I was broke, when I was riding around with a woman or driving her car, having sex with her, driving her car, when I was broke, when I had no money, the caliber of woman that I was dealing with is nowhere near as the caliber of women that I deal with now, or the woman who I deal with now. You understand? It's two different calibers of women. Was I still able to get women back when I was broke? Yes. I agree with you, Alex, but the caliber of women that I can attract now around the circles that I am now, it's completely different.
And that's what men want. Men want to be able to attract the best woman.
The amount might not change, right? Let's say I was able to get 5 dates with 5 women when I was broke, and now I can get 5 dates with 5 women when I'm not broke. But the caliber of women is different compared to back then.
Yeah, but I would argue the caliber is different because you have access to better social circles, not because you make more money.
But you
have access to better social circles because you make more money.
Couldn't you agree? Right. Couldn't you agree, Alex, that finances play a big role in the kind of social circles that you have access to?
For a second?
Sure.
Can Alex answer this real quick?
Can Alex answer the question, please?
Sure. I think it can play a role, but there's a lot. There's a lot of. I think there's a correlation there, but there's not a causation. I think there's a lot of medium income people who have access to much cooler, better social circles than rich guys. I have rich clients. I have guys who make like insane money, like millions of dollars. And a lot of them, like some of them have no friends. They have no social circles, right? Their social circle is the prostitute they spend their Friday night with. So yeah, I think there's a correlation there, but there's not a causation. But yeah, go ahead, Jafar.
Yeah, but we're not talking about like billions and like, we're just talking about people who have more access to money, who are a little bit more financially stable than I guess average Joe, like you said, 0,000 a year, are going to have more access. And not only that, they'll have the money in order to invest in themselves, to where they can have self-development, where they can actually get a gym membership or workout, or hire a mentor, be able to hire, people that are going to help them become the ultimate versions of themselves, so they can be ready to be in these, higher tier networking circles.
But then if we control for that and we say both the guy who makes 5 figures and 6 figures has access to the same exact social circles, then you would say that money doesn't really matter.
You said if what now? Say that one more time for me, please.
Well, let's control for that factor. You say the guy who makes 5 figures and the guy who makes 6 figures, they both have access to the same exact social circles. Then would you say that money doesn't really matter much?
If they had access to the same social circles?
Yeah.
Would I say that money doesn't matter much?
I
still think it would matter, because they would still have to be able to invest a relative amount of money into their self-development. Now, if they are developed the same way, they have the same amount of skills, they develop the same amount in all parameters, then yes. In an extreme example like that, an extreme hypothetical like that, then yes, money wouldn't play a huge role. Okay. But if they're trying to, for example, be in these circles in order to be able to invest with these people or make something that has to do with finances, I think that the one that's making more money will be able to make those specific things happen more versus the guy who doesn't.
Okay, we don't even necessarily disagree that much.
I don't think we do. Yeah.
Let's let Jazmen ask a question.
I'm just gonna hop in and do like a closing on hypergamy, and then I gotta go because I have an OnlyFans live planned. I was planning for like 2 hours, so I'll hop out, let you guys finish the debate. But I want to actually quickly share my screen, because we talked about how if we're looking at even Oxford definition of hypergamy, we talked about how the height thing doesn't really make sense, because then you can flip it and say that men are hypergamous too. But even when you're looking at right here. Even when you're looking at, can you guys see my screen?
I got to add it. There we go.
Not yet. Okay, there we go.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, so even when we're looking at education, money, look at how it's changing over time, right? Like this is a big shift over time when it comes to education, now that the education gap has not only lessened, but is actually reversed. So a lot of this, women want men who are making more than them, it's because they needed to. They had to out of necessity. Now that that necessity is going away, we see what's happening with hypergamy. Hypergamy is declining. So I just think that giving men advice based on female hypergamy, which hasn't been reflected in mating practices pretty much ever, because people used to mate across status anyway. And now we're even seeing that preference wise and the advantage that they want with education and socioeconomic status is going down. This is a study done on like 20 something countries. It's just not really good advice for the modern era. And I'm just going to end with that. Thank you so much for everybody for having me. I'm so sorry that I got to leave early. I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, if Jazmen's got an OnlyFans live, that means I got to go too. So.
Yeah, I was supposed to go live like 20 minutes ago, so they're all waiting for me. If that's the adventure you choose, put me there. Otherwise, yeah. Keep
all right, take care, Jazmen. Thanks for coming.
I won't be joining. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, cool. Yeah, we can go for like another 10 minutes or so. Yeah, I mean, like I want to. I mean, if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask. But I guess I just want to quickly go through some of the other stuff I wrote down.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, Alex. What do you disagree with the red pill community?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot. I disagree with the. Yeah, sure. So I disagree with the high priority on money. I disagree with the idea that, you know, like most or all of these women in America are 3 or 4s. And, you know, if you want a good girl, you have to travel overseas. This idea that, you know, you have to like basically lock your girl down. Otherwise, she's going to cheat on you. I mean, there's a lot. Like, I don't know which one you want to start with, but
I didn't agree with a lot of those. So I'm touched like on the money thing. That's the only thing that I guess we disagree on, and that standpoint. So for the money thing, you don't think that guys should be aiming to gain wealth?
No, I think they absolutely should, but not because it will make them better with girls. For other reasons, I think.
Okay, I know. I would agree with that then.
Yeah, I think having money is great. Like, it has made my life better. You can pay for medical bills. You can support your family. You can live in a nicer apartment. You can feed your dog better food. Yeah, I'm all in favor for people trying to make as much money as possible. I just like one of the things that I guess like frustrates me about like some of the red pill advice I've heard. And again, I'm not trying to like say that you guys are saying this. Honestly, I haven't really watched too much of your content, so I'm just going off what you told me today. But this is like a big thing that I've heard from like red pillars. It's a guy will be like, hey man, I'm really struggling with meeting girls. Oh, just focus on yourself, man. You know, just do self-development and make more money. And then, you know, that part will fix itself. No, it won't. Like, girls are not going to come to you just because you start making more money. And if they do, it's going to be the wrong kind of girls. It's going to be gold diggers. So that, again, I think that making money is great. It's just not something that's going to help you meet girls. Like, if you want that, you have to kind of go off what Hector said. I believe he said earlier. The biggest part of it is playing the game, learning how to be more charismatic, learning how to have better social skills, going out there and talking to more girls, getting connected in more social circles. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
What's your take on the whole Destiny situation that's going on here? I'd love to hear your opinion. You brought Destiny here. Destiny allows his wife to get banged by other guys. We had him here on our previous show. We had a long conversation with him about what you would call red pill ideologies, and he denied that would make any difference. He actually said, and I quote, "Yeah, we can have sex together, and or I'm sorry, she can have sex with other guys, and we'll just go get STD checks, so on and so forth." So, what's your take on the fact that now Destiny did the podcast? Not even a month later, his wife is, or maybe I don't know who filed for divorce. I think she filed for divorce. What's your take on that whole situation? Does that have anything to do with red pill, or maybe some of the red pill ideologies? Would that have helped maybe Destiny save his situation, or do you think that that maybe it's just luck of the draw?
I'm gonna preface what I say by saying that I'm friends with Destiny, so I'm gonna be biased. I don't know if I'm the best person to ask, but
I love Jazmen's take on, but she cut out.
I don't disagree with every single red pill talking point. I think, like, even Fresh and Fit, who I don't like, I probably agree with them on like 50% of shit. And yeah, I do. This is a debate me and Destiny have had several times, actually, or at least once, if not twice. I personally don't think that two-way open relationships are a good idea. I think they're suboptimal to either a monogamous relationship or a one-way open relationship where the guy can hook up with other girls, which is why I have a one-way open relationship, right? Yes, I do think that women are more likely to become emotionally attached to a guy they have sex with than a guy is to become emotionally attached to a girl that he has sex with. So yes, I personally would never advise a two-way open relationship unless, of course, that's something that the guy just desires above all else, and he doesn't really care about optimization, whatnot. It would either be one-way open, or for most people, it will be just simply monogamous, because a lot of girls won't go for one-way open. So yeah, I do think that setup is suboptimal, but I mean, in terms of what happened, I mean, I feel bad. I mean, he's my friend, and divorce is sad, so hopefully he gets through it. And yeah,
but to be clear, I don't think she left him for somebody else, right? Like,
I think he was the one
because he was upset that he was paying. She was stuck in another country over tax issues for almost 6 months, and so the entire time she was over there, she had another guy staying with her the entire time, which generally they're okay with, but she wasn't telling him, and it was a specific guy that he didn't like, from what I understand.
Yeah. So
but this inherently is what the, I got to put it in quotes, red pill says to not do. And I'm not saying you agree with Destiny. You just said you didn't really agree with his lifestyle, but this is what we were trying to.
Wait, hang on, Steve, just to clarify, it's not that I didn't agree with this lifestyle. I didn't think it was like unethical or something like that. I just thought that type of relationship has a lower chance of working out than a monogamous relationship. But it's not that I had any issue at all with this lifestyle.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I'm just going back and saying that do you think that, and this would be a great question for Destiny, but I'm going to ask you because you're his friend. Do you think that if Destiny would have adopted more of the ideologies, at least that part of the red pill, to not allow yourself to be in an open relationship with a woman, that his relationship would have worked out? Or do you think it had nothing to do with that? Because from what I read was that this guy had said, I am going to self-delete myself if you don't choose him, or choose me or choose him, or I'm going to self-delete myself. That was thrown into part of the story. Tom just added another element. Tom, am I wrong? Is that false?
I know he blocked her on
or am I wrong to see? Because even Destiny did a little Twitter thing.
You're partially correct. So yes, that did happen. But as far as I understand, and again, we have only limited information at this point, is that ultimately it was Destiny that was just like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. The girl didn't end the relationship with Destiny after that guy gave her the ultimatum. That wasn't it. It just, she kept making excuses for him over and over again. And Destiny was like, all right, this is ridiculous. Like, this person is super toxic. He's giving these crazy ultimatums, and he's living in the apartment that I am paying for. Like this is ridiculous. And she just kept making excuses for him. So she didn't end it with him over that ultimatum. The ultimatum was just part of the, I guess, the thing that frustrated Destiny.
Okay, let me ask you one more question on that though. Why, in your opinion, shouldn't men allow their woman to have sex with other men and be in an open relationship? You're saying you don't agree with it, but can you tell me why? Why is that not a lifestyle choice that you personally would agree upon or indulge in?
Yeah, there's two reasons. First of all, the idea of my girlfriend getting fucked by another dude is like watching my dog get like lit on fire. It's beyond repugnant and repulsive to me. So on the primal level, I don't think I could even if it was optimal. Let's say that there was a study that came out that open relationships did like 80% better than one-way open relationships. I don't think I could still do it because it's just, the idea is just like beyond sickening to me. I love my girlfriend. The second part of it is because from what I've seen, those relationships are suboptimal. When the girl's only with you, having sex with you, she's not going to catch feelings for another guy, versus if she's having sex with other guys, there's a chance, even if she has the best of intentions, I want to stay loyal to my man. I'm only going to, have casual sex with other guys. There's still a chance that she's going to, and it's a substantial chance that she's going to catch feelings for that random guy that she's having sex with, right? I think there are some women who are able to separate sex and feelings, but I think for a lot of women, those two things are kind of intertwined. I do think that a lot of men struggle with that too, but I think on average, men are a little bit better about having no strings attached sex than women are.
But I think it's important to mention as well. Destiny, like you guys said, you talked to him about it, so maybe he already said.
I did not talk to him personally.
Well, I'm saying they said that he was on their show and that they talked to him about it, and the like Destiny will tell you that he understands that open relationships are less likely to work, but they're still better for his lifestyle because he's not willing to be in a closed relationship, and he would rather be with somebody who's going to also be having sex so that they don't resent him being in an open relationship. And so he's like, he understands that this is the risk while also believing that this is like his best option.
This is a debate I've had with him a bunch of times, but the point I was trying to make is that a relationship doesn't have to be fair. It just has to work for both parties. So you can absolutely have a one-way open relationship without the girl resenting you, as long as she doesn't feel like she was misled into it and her needs are being met. Not every girl wants to go around and fuck a bunch of guys if she's happy with you.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think that Destiny shot himself in the foot by allowing her to go and have sex with other men. I would argue that this new relationship that she has with this guy in Sweden or wherever he is, that she is not going to be in that same kind of relationship with him as she was with Destiny, because women don't naturally really want to fuck other guys. I think the reason why, and again, I'm speculating, but I think the reason why she did it was because he's a more liberal, blue-haired dude that's just like, yeah, no, go ahead. It's okay if you fuck other guys because I'm going to fuck other girls and I'm gay or bi and I'm going to fuck other guys too, whatever, right? And we were literally explaining to him that that's not going to work out for you. It typically doesn't work out. And yes, he knew that. But I would argue that Destiny needs to become a little bit more red-pilled. And I hope, and I'm not making light of the situation, but I hope after this that he changes the way he thinks. He changes the way that he deals with the next woman that he's with. Or maybe he'll get back with his woman. But we were sitting here.
I think you're wrong about part of what you said. There are some women that absolutely do want to fuck a bunch of guys. Melina has said herself, and again, I'm not trying to shit on her. I like Melina, but she has said herself that every single relationship she has been in leading up to Destiny's has been an open relationship. Her body count, from what I remember, is a bit on the higher side. So, no, like I think legitimately, I remember even Jesse Lee Peterson once, who's obviously
also she went 2 or 3 years with only women. Like she was only dating or having sex with other women for like years. She said that she wasn't really interested in men outside of Destiny. So,
okay, fair enough. But there are girls, like let's even forget Melina. There are girls who legitimately do enjoy having sex with a lot of men.
Well, by going by what you said, Destiny knew that the type of relationship he was in with Melina had a higher percentage of not working. So then Melina should understand on her end that if she wants to continue to have sex with guys or with other guys outside of her actual relationship, that it might not work out for her. And there's a higher percentage that her relationships will fail just as they did. I think that Destiny was being a little bit disingenuous by coming on by saying he said something about like, I don't get jealous and I don't do this and I don't do that. And clearly in his Twitter messages or in some of the message I was reading, he obviously was annoyed that you just said he didn't want him around this guy. And I think even in his Twitter thing, he said something about that guy. So he's coming on here saying, I don't get jealous. I'm Destiny. It's cool that she does this. But clearly he was lying, or clearly he does get jealous, right? So this is
he doesn't get jealous about her having sex.
Well, let me finish. But I'm just saying, though, overall, you come on and you're giving off this, this is whatever. Yeah, we'll just get STD checks, right? And then it comes out that you actually didn't want her around this guy, so on and so forth. So I'll let you guys speak. What I'm saying is ultimately it doesn't typically work out. And I'm hoping that in Destiny's next relationship, he doesn't do that, because it's the probability of it working out is far less.
I'm not like making an argument
like that as a guy.
I'm not making an argument. I'm just trying to correct information. He wasn't he says that like he won't get jealous about her having sex with somebody else, but he does have boundaries on their relationship, and so did she on how close they could get to somebody else with an intimate relationship. Like if they were like catching feelings, talking to them all the time, sharing intimate information, they considered that cheating, and they would like get upset about those sorts of things.
Do you think it's smart? Do you think it's a smart decision as a man? Do you think it's smart decision as a man, going off of what Alex says, knowing that women are emotional and they're gonna probably get attached, and if that guy's fucking her and he's in her ear, I'm back. Come on, with me, I'm gonna kill him. I'll delete myself if I, right? Do you think as a man, that is smart to put yourself in that position?
Well, I think that people do things when it comes to relationships, they're not like optimal all the time. They go with emotional. Now it seems that like Destiny didn't really know there was a third option, which is a one-way open relationship, or at the very least, he might have known it exists, but he didn't think it was something that was practical. But in terms of, I do agree with what Tom said. Like, I don't see any kind of contradiction there. You can not be jealous, but also have boundaries. My girlfriend, I would say, is one of the least jealous humans I have ever met, but she has boundaries. If I start, for example, hooking up with my exes, right? That would violate her boundaries. Doesn't mean she's jealous. It just means it violates her boundaries. So it seemed like for Destiny, like he wasn't jealous of this person. Like this was just a violation of, his boundaries, because in their relationship, I'm sure he said like, yeah, you can't be like fucking living with toxic people, whatever the fuck, their deal was. So
I'm going to say Destiny was destined to have a failed marriage because I'm gonna start calling him destined.
I agree. I agree with that. What you just said, Alex. Just because he set certain boundaries doesn't mean that he's jealous if she doesn't respect those boundaries. However, wouldn't you agree that typically, right, women, they do have sex with men and they do get attached emotionally when they have sex with men?
I think most women do.
Okay, so with this woman, right? Because I don't know the story. All I know is, I guess they're getting a divorce. That's all I know. I don't, but do you think that it would be safe to assume that she probably started liking this guy for her to allow him in the apartment that Destiny was paying for, knowing that he didn't like him or he wouldn't be okay with him there?
I mean, I'm heavily speculating, but I would imagine, yes. I would imagine she did wind up liking this other guy.
Yeah.
But again,
a little bit more, or to the level of possibly crossing those boundaries that he set in the beginning of that open relationship.
I mean, this would get into like heavy speculation. Did she?
But let's just speculate a little bit. Like, what that could be a possibility, correct?
It could be a possibility.
Okay, now wouldn't that be a high possibility? Sure, but wouldn't that be a high possibility considering the fact that when women are sexually involved with a man or sexually intimate with a man, the likelihood of her getting emotionally attached to that man she's being sexual with is high, or higher than it would relatively to a man being sexually
yeah, that is true. That's true enough. I just don't know. Wait, let me qualify. I just don't know if she liked him more than she liked Destiny. That I don't know. It's possible, I guess.
She liked him enough to cross the boundaries he said.
Well, yeah, but like women make emotional decisions that are not smart all the time.
Sure.
And that's why women shouldn't cheat, and that's why you shouldn't be in open relationship.
And that was how I was gonna, and that's why, yeah, exactly. That's why women shouldn't have sex with multiple men.
Don't do it. Just don't allow your woman to do it. You're better off. It's better off.
Most women don't want to do it.
Right.
The majority of women really.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. I also don't think it's a good idea.
I would be curious to see if Melina does the same thing she did with Destiny with this guy. I am gonna bet right here that she goes into a regular, whatever, monogamous relationship with this guy. Guarantee it.
Do you know if her relationships leading up to Destiny were open as well? She was the one
I know. I'm just saying that's not really what she wanted, and she's gotten what she wanted now. If she stays with this guy, I don't think she's gonna continue it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about this guy? Because it's actually
I don't know anything about any of them.
You said it's a who?
It's a trans guy, so it was actually a girl who turned into a guy.
Wait,
okay.
Is it?
He'll still be monogamous to the trans guy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what his level of surgery is.
That has nothing to do with her being monogamous or not to the trans person. What I'm saying is I don't believe she's going to be in a open relationship with said person, is what I'm saying.
The devil is alive.
The trans thing doesn't matter. That's neither here nor there.
Start speaking about some.
No, I definitely think it will play a role, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe she will, maybe she won't. I really have no idea.
Yeah, no, I was just curious about your take on that. I mean, he was just here and we had a whole conversation about, that's going to fail, and he was just kind of like, yeah, right. Yeah. So, and again, I'm not making light of it. I think hopefully everything works out. I know he has kids and so on and so forth. So I wish him the best of luck. But I just wanted to know your take on that since you're his friend.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any like special information. I haven't like talked to him about it, but yeah, I mean the whole two-way open relationship from a pragmatic perspective is something I've disagreed with Destiny on for a while. I guess just to quickly recap, I generally agreed with you guys more than I disagreed. Like when I asked you, what is your dating advice for guys who are struggling to meet girls? You said focus on yourself and self development, dressing better, going to the gym, hygiene, self learning. I think all that stuff is good. I probably wouldn't put it at number one, maybe number two, but yeah, I think play the game. That would probably be number one for me. I think find a mentor is pretty good advice as long as it's a good mentor. So we don't really have necessarily strong disagreements on that. When I asked you what do you agree and disagree with the red pill on, for agree, you said women date guys who are above them. That we already argued extensively. Alpha fucks, beta bucks. We argued that extensively. Men should be the ultimate version of themselves. I agree with you on that. In terms of things you disagree, you said it's okay to be chivalrous. Don't give respect to certain women. You disagree with that. I agree with your disagreements. So yeah, I don't know. There's really nothing else I guess I want to cover. Is there anything anyone else want to talk about?
Did you guys have questions for Alex at all?
No, but I do want to say this. I don't like the label of red pill because in my standpoint of what the red pill community is, it's the guys that couldn't get girls at the beginning, and then they adopt all these traits and all these characteristics and all these I guess words that
ideologies and rhetorics. Yeah,
exactly. They adapt all those things, and I think they adapt it to get women now. They use those things to get women. So
yeah, that's why I started the whole conversation by saying, okay, what are specific things you agree and disagree? So I didn't want to straw man you and be like, well, the red pill believes this, right? So that's why I want to qualify that.
I think that would be like kind of like what the red pill community is. They're trying to adapt all these things to get women. What we're talking about in the Mentuition Network is just how to build yourself up as a man.
I think you guys are much more balanced. And even though I disagree with you guys on some things, I think you guys are much more balanced and have much saner opinions and perspectives than pretty much everyone I've seen in the red pill. I think most red pillars are kind of clowns. And I just see a bunch of like built up resentment. It looks like they have a love and hate relationship with women, most of it being hate. So yeah, I don't see any of that with you guys, or at least from this discussion. So
I wanna just add one more thing before we cut out, man. I think if we ever do, which I would love to do another debate with you guys or a discussion again, is that we should define what red pill is, because I think that's a big thing. Because your definition of what red pill is and Jasmine's definition of what red pill is are going to get, convoluted, and it's going to be a whole different thing. The red pill in its essence, and this is from the people who started it, I'm just going to read it real quick, is red pill is the practice or study of intersexual dynamics between men and women. Understanding the differences between men and women, as well as having a deep understanding of male and female nature, are very important keys to being what we call red pill. So what happens with red pill is red pill was snowballed into the black pill and to the white pill and to this pill and to that pill. And that's not at its core what it was. And I think that the problem is men want to belong to something, right? They want to be in the fresh and fit chat. Yeah, get those bitches, right? Kick them out, right? It has to be these guys getting upset and getting pissed and boys rule, women rule, so on and so forth, and making blatant statements. But that's not really what red pill is at its core. It's just saying you need to understand these things. Here it is. Understand this and then use that to your advantage. I could be getting friend zoned by a girl, and the fact that I have some knowledge of red pill or mentuition, having a man's intuition, I could say, hey, you know what? I'm in the friend zone and I don't like it, and I need to figure out a way to get out of it.
I'm not going to give her free attention.
Right. Whatever red pill, right. And we measure that with red pill, or what we say on Mentuition: time, effort, money, attention, sex, so on and so forth. I'm not going to give her all of this. I'm going to retain some of it, right? I'm not going to get her flowers on the first date. I'm not going to, right? Some guys may, but what I'm saying is, like, we're not going to fall into that trap, right? I have a friend zone issue. He has an issue with, he has a girl that he found out she was a stripper before, right? He has to use his knowledge of the intersexual dynamics between women to get himself out of that situation. So what I was trying to explain to Jasmine was that, look, men want to have, and she wasn't getting it. She was just focusing on these, specific things, which is fine. But we want to bang as many women as we can, right? Or we want to put ourselves in the pool of women that we can get the most women. If I said it before, if I'm the quarterback on the fucking, high school team or college team, I have a bigger chance of getting more women. Whether I date across or date down or whatever I do, that's the position that most men want to be in. So I think that, just in closing, that there's a convolution of and a muddiness and cloudiness of what red pill is, and it just has turned into a bunch of guys who I would say are more so on the incel thing in these chats, and they're just like, yeah, I belong. They want to belong to something.
And you know what it is, Steve, and not to interrupt you, but I want to add this too. The whole red pill, blue pill thing, it's a direct play on the movie The Matrix, right? But a lot of guys, a lot of these young guys that are on these forums and on these chats, they don't understand that, yeah, Neo took the red pill, but they still had to put him in the program in order for him to learn how to fight, learn how to use weapons. He still had to train. He didn't just swallow the red pill and he just became a fucking, he just became the one. So for the guys who are like, oh, I'm going to, because it is a lot of incels. It is a lot of guys that want to just belong to something, that just want to say, oh, fuck those bitches for every time a woman told him no. That's why we specifically disassociate ourselves from that community whatsoever, because it does become a snowball effect. But again, to the Matrix reference, Neo took the red pill. Yes, he became aware. Just like the definition explained, you become aware of the intersexual dynamics between men and women, but you still have to train. Neo still had to train. He had to become the one. He didn't just become the one after he took the pill, right? So I think a lot of these guys in these spaces, they'll start watching these podcasts and they already think, oh, women are this way. No, you still got to play the game. You still got to develop yourself as a man. You still got to get in shape. You still got to learn how to dress, learn how to talk, learn how to communicate in general with men and women. So I think that's another important thing to add on. So I just wanted to add on.
Just to kind of comment on that, definitions absolutely evolve. So, for example, 150 years ago, the word faggot used to mean something totally different than it means now. A less extreme example is the word liberal. Being a liberal 30 years ago was quite different than what it means.
You're cutting out a little bit. Is he cutting out for you, Tom?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Is it our stream? We can't really hear you.
I'll just repeat myself. Can you hear me now?
A little bit. Is it lagging for you guys?
No, I think it's
we're good. Am I lagging for you guys?
No, I
yeah, your voices are lagging.
Oh, then it's us. It must be us. Yeah, we're good now. Okay, we're good. Yeah.
The whole point I'm making is definitions evolve. Like what a liberal was 30 years ago is pretty different than what liberal is now. So I understand your point about hey, red pill. When it was created, meant this. But that's not even really that relevant because a red pill has evolved to be something quite different. And you've kind of touched on it a bit, what it is now. But anyway, that's a whole side point. But yeah, cool.
Do we want to let everybody shout themselves out real quick? And
yeah, of course.
Tell everybody where they can find you, Hector and Steve.
Yeah, so definitely follow the Mentuition Network on YouTube, on Instagram. Follow me at I am Hector Jesus on all social media platforms.
Yeah, you guys can catch me on the Mentuition Network on Instagram. I have a show on the network called the Mentuition Academy where I talk about travel. I talk about red pill stuff, whatever you want to call it. And I'm also the producer for the Parallel Perspective.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Watch the Parallel Perspective, you guys.
Yeah, he hosts a show called the Parallel Perspective on the network. It's a great show. It's a more tamed environment. We have women sitting around. We're having discussions. It's not bitch, get the fuck out. It's we're talking to women in a very respectful way and not a pushover way, but just
it's more in the name. We're gaining the parallel perspective of both men and women. Like, okay, this is what women want. This is what men want. Let's come to an amicable agreement. Let's move forward because ultimately we can't live without each other. So, the parallel perspective.
And then lastly, I'll say my content for Mentuition Academy is solo, but it's more about travel, passport bros stuff. I will turn it over to Basil.
You can find me on the Mentuition Network on YouTube. My show is Network King. It's a play on words. On the Network King, you can find me on Instagram at Network King Show. And then my personal IG is Basil Artist. What I talk about on Network King is business networking, obviously. teaching, small things that men might want to know, maybe about life insurance. It could be about AI. Whatever guests I have on, whatever guests I'm interviewing, they teach a little about what they do and how you could do it yourself. And then it's the broader, in general, chats we talk about how to network and how to start getting into entrepreneurship.
Cool. Tom, do you want to really quickly shout out your channel too?
Yeah, my name's Tom. Go by Tom Foolery Show. Host lots of debates. Go over news and drama. We're probably going to get a lot into Destiny's divorce in a little bit. Go over what he said about it. Talk about what Rollo Tomasi had to say about it as well. And then, yeah, we host all sorts of panels. Do political debates, red pill debates, all sorts of shit like that. And let's see. Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, so check me out, youtube.com/TomFooleryShow.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. It was a fun discussion. We'll definitely have to do another one in the near future. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Yeah, this was a fun debate. I like these debates. They're chill, intellectual. It's good. But anyway, thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good night.
Before you go, Alex, you're based out of Miami, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and get you a parallel perspective in the near future.
Yeah, of course, man. Just hit me up and let me know.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
What'd you say?
I said, don't waste your audience. Remember to raid people, bro.